Konoha, February 12th, 997 SE. Forest of Death, 6:08 p.m. It would be well into the evening as the trio of Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura were currently taking a break from their training within the monstrous forest when Naruto was currently in substantial pain after his trying to 1v2 a group of dire bears had caused him to sprout a bladed metal tail to decapitate it and the blood vessels in his eyes to burst with such force that his face was streaked in scarlet. Of all the fucked shit to happen, my eyes fucking explode. Just my luck that something cursed happens when I want to do something cool. Naruto cursed, still clutching at his head as the feeling of barbed razors covered in salt and lye shoved into his eyes dominated his vision. On the plus side, you killed those dire bears with whatever the hell you used on them. The downside as well, your eyes turning into pulp. Sakura spoke as she saw Naruto clutch his face that was covered in blood and thick ocular fluid. You don't say. Piss, everything sucks right now. I can't even blink without it feeling like I'm getting stomped out by a coked-out deer. Naruto groaned in immense pain. Here, run this over your eyes, Naruto. Then we can at least see how bad your eyes are after we've flushed them out. Sasuke spoke as he handed a water skein to the blonde. Alright, fine, but someone is going to have to do it for me. What with my eyes being covered in blood and whatever else is out here, Naruto said back as he still blinked crimson viscera out of his sight. I'll do it. Come here and hold still, Sakura said as she ran the water over Naruto's eyes to help flush the crimson out of his eyes. Okay, that should do it. Are you going to be okay? Sakura asked. I should be fine. My eyes still feel like I got cracked in the face by a coked-out Akimichi. But other than that, everything is just fine. Naruto answered back after taking a few moments to realign his sight now that his eyes were cleared. That's good. Now we can take 5 and Sasuke. Am I high or were Naruto's eyes a different color and now crazy looking? Sakura spoke, looking at Naruto's eyes now that they were no longer covered in bloody scarlet. No, you are not, as it seems that Naruto has apparently awakened his own Kekkei Genkai. Sasuke remarked at his friend's new eyes. Wait, what are you talking about? I don't have new eyes. Do I? Naruto asked as he continued to adjust to the world being in far more clearer definition than before. See for yourself, Naruto. At least this means we now know why your eyes practically imploded. Only you could have a violent awakening for a Kekkei Genkai. Sasuke spoke as he held out his Chikudo for Naruto to see his newly changed eyes with. This is definitely something else. Doesn't help that my eyes still hurt like crazy. Naruto spoke as he looked at his now bright royal violet eyes with bone-white ripples that radiated outwards in a concentric pattern. Can you turn it off? It feels weird looking at you with whatever the hell your eyes are called, Sakura questioned the blonde. Nope. I'm trying and nothing's happening so far, so I guess I'm stuck with having crazy eyes forever. Honestly, not the worst trade-off since I have superpowers now, Naruto answered back. Look at it this way, between Naruto having crazy eye powers, Sasuke being a super swordsman, and my being from a clan of super assassins. The real question should be, what can't we do when we wind up on a team together next year? Sakura spoke, seeing it as a powerhouse setup for them overall. As long as we keep to our plan to become a shinobi squad together, then all should be well. Even Lord Fourth would not be foolish enough to go through the insanely foolish plan of putting Naruto together with the twin idiots. Sasuke said, knowing that as long as they kept their overall skill level within the middle of their class, then their plan would work as intended. Now the only matter is how we are going to hide Naruto's new eyes. Granted, he still has the doppelganger that Lady Shizune made for him so that he doesn't have to be around his family anymore. We will need to find a way to disguise his eyes until further notice. Otherwise, this is going to make things so much more complicated than need be. Sasuke further spoke. I can handle that. I have some contacts that Naruto can use at home. I'll just have to get a pair for Naruto to wear and we should have that covered, Sakura told him. Sounds good. And do we want to explain to Mabuki when we get back about my new eyes? Also, do we want to tell Mizuki-sensei about them too? He might be able to figure something out and help me to find out what they can do, Naruto questioned. I would say do so at your own discretion. However, be mindful that in doing so that you will need to keep the powers you do have under wraps, as it were. Neither of us know exactly what these eyes of yours can do beyond manifesting that bladed tail you used to behead those dire bears. Sasuke answered back in leaving it up to Naruto to choose who to tell at his own choosing. Fair point, but on the plus side our summer won't be boring. We get a whole new way to train on top of testing out what my new eyes can do, Naruto said to his two friends. So on top of everything we already do, we're also going to see if Naruto's cracked as hell? Honestly, not the worst way to spend a summer. Sakura spoke with a shrug of her shoulders. Awesome. Anyways, you guys want to head back to Sakura and Ai's house for dinner? We have nothing else to do today, Naruto asked his friends. Fine by me, Naruto. Besides, Mom is going to make our favorites tonight, so you know what that means? Sakura said as an excited yet still pained look rapidly spread across his face. Awesome pork and chicken ramen, here we come. But right after we get some aspirin first for my new headache. Naruto cheered before cursing as every time he blinked it felt like salt-covered razors. Good idea. Sasuke, you mind helping my half-blind brother to our house? Sakura requested as Sasuke nodded and went to Naruto to help act as a second pair of eyes for the hulking blonde. I do not mind at all, Sakura. Are you going to be okay on the way back, Naruto? Sasuke spoke. Yeah, I'm good. Man, let's just get going already. I'm starving, Naruto exclaimed as he and his companions sprinted off. 2 weeks later, March 1st, 996 S. 3:09 p.m. The Academy. It would be a few weeks later as Naruto alongside his friends had continued not only training together, but helping Naruto to train in the use of his Rinnegan. Yet it was after hours that Naruto was met by his favorite instructor Mizuki, who had throughout it all become more or less like the older brother he'd never had. Hey Naruto, I just wanted to check in with you and make sure everything is still going okay. Mizuki spoke to the rather large blonde. I'm doing okay still. Granted, I could do without one of my legs being in a brace for life. Then again, when one of your siblings is a sore loser who doesn't know when to take a loss like a regular person, you learn to live with it, Naruto replied as he tapped his left leg that sounded with the metallic clang of a heavy-duty leg brace. I am so sorry about that. If I had known he had done that earlier, I would have done everything I could to make sure that little bastard got expelled. The protege of Lord Jiraiya be damned, Mizuki said to the blonde. As much as I wish that would work, and I really do, we both know that the chances of expelling him or Hiyori are about as good as convincing a Nara to not be a pile of lazybones for a week. Sure, they might get suspended for a few weeks to 2 to 3 months at best, but it'll just wind up with them back in the academy, and then things are just that much worse for me on my end. Naruto responded with an emotionally exhausted sigh. So as much as I appreciate the thought, it's honestly just better this way. I'm just glad that Granny Tsunade, Grandpa Dan, and everyone else agreed to keep this under wraps. Otherwise, I'm fucked and the twins know it. Naruto said, knowing that keeping his leg wound under wraps and not saying anything was for the better at the end of it. Doesn't make it any less right, but if there's anything I can do for you, Naruto, then let me know. I have your back as always, Mizuki replied, his sympathies for the young man present as always. Thanks, and there is one thing I'll need your help with actually. Kinda big thing now that I really think about it, Naruto said back. Sure, what is it? Mizuki said as he saw Naruto take out a pair of contacts from his eyes. Do you know what these are? Because I was training with Sasuke and Sakura in the Forest of Death like we normally do. About a couple of weeks ago, and then some fuck shit happens. Next thing I know, I got these cool super eyes that let me do all sorts of fun stuff, Naruto asked as he showed his Rinnegan to Mizuki. I personally don't know what those are, but I do know someone who does. Call it a work associate, but I will tell them about this so they can confirm what it is. If it's anything special, I will get back to you as soon as possible. Mizuki answered back, not knowing what to make of the strange ripple-like eyes. Cool, cool, cool. Well, I appreciate it, Mizuki-sensei. Any help I can get about figuring out what they can do is great, Naruto said to his teacher as he put his contacts back in. No problem. It's the least I can do. I just ask that you keep your head up, keep getting stronger, and remember that no matter what, you have more heart and good than both your dickhead siblings combined, Mizuki told Naruto, who smiled an almost bestial grin. Don't worry. I've got everything covered. Just one more year of this and then I'll finally have my headband and be on my way soon enough. Man, is it gonna be great being a real-deal shinobi. Naruto said. All I can say about this is good luck, Naruto. You've made it this far, so if you can make it through being stuck with those monsters, then you can make it through anything. Mizuki replied with full confidence in the hulking blonde. Thanks, I appreciate it. That reminds me, I'm working on something really cool that I want to show you soon. But I'm gonna need your word that you can keep it a secret once I tell you. Naruto said back. Hey, this is me we're talking about. You know you can count on me. Besides, I'm not a narc like Irika. Mizuki said with a jestful smile. You've got that right, I don't know what it is about him. But all he gives me is bad vibes and not nothing else. It's why I put laxatives and scorpion peppers in his coffee before classes. Naruto informed the silver-haired Chunin. Wait a second. Is that why he had diarrhea for a month? Mizuki asked in having connected the dots on his coworker's run of stomach problems. Yep, I can't put my finger on it. But he's been real off lately. I don't know what he's doing, but whatever he's got going on gives me the creeps. Naruto answered back in having felt nothing but bad vibes from said Chunin. Fair point, but I'm sure it isn't anything too bad. But I'll keep a lookout for him just in case. Mizuki said, keeping that in mind. Alright, sweet. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. By the way, Mizuki-sensei, good luck with Anko. Out of all the people to ask out to be your old lady, you sir have balls of steel to choose her of all people. Naruto replied as he took his satchel. What can I say? I like the odds and they look good. Mizuki said back with a grin. Whatever you say, just don't come crying to me or Hanabi when you get turned into snake food. It's on your ass if you fuck up, Naruto said before heading out to go train with Sasuke and Sakura. I'm sure my first date with Anko is gonna go great. Right? Mizuki hoped to himself. 2 days later, March 3rd, 996, 7:25 p.m., Uchiha Compound. Meanwhile, Naruto was at the Uchiha Compound, having been over there to hang out with Sasuke, as well as have dinner with them in general, and moreover, spend time with one of his favorite Uchihas of all time, his uncle Obito. I don't know how you and Fugaka do it, but somehow you two always make kick-ass dinner. Obito said, happy to once again have his nephew over. Hey, if there's one thing that the Akimichis and I can agree on, it is that great food can bring any and everyone together. Plus, it just really helps to have a backup option just in case I do get to be a shinobi, and I realize I don't really fuck with it like I want to. Naruto replied in always loving to cook for both himself and the people around him. Then I guess it is a good you got that job at their restaurant. Hell, with how good you are, you could probably give the Ichirakus a run for their money. Obito remarked over the blonde's prodigious cooking talents. I know I'm good, Yunsi, but I'm not that good. I just really love what I do is all, Naruto said, waving off the compliment. Naruto, you are the only one other than Sasuke or me that he will let cook with him. Hell, he won't even let Itachi in the kitchen with him when he's cooking, and he's supposed to be the golden boy of the clan. So trust me when I say, you are awesome when it comes to cooking. Obito said back in encouragement of his nephew's cooking ability. Thanks, I appreciate it. I am just super happy that I get to be here with you guys is all. Doing this kind of stuff either here with Granny Tsunade and Grandpa Dan, at the Akimichis, or at Sakura's with my bonus mom and the Kureis always makes me feel better. Naruto spoke in always having felt happiest at those 4 places when he wasn't with Sasuke and Sakura. Yeah, honestly I'm happy that you have such a kick-ass system of people around you. I didn't really have that great of one growing up, at least not until after the war where I got to be best buds with Lady Tsunade's kids. Now those are some great people to have in your corner. Obito replied, happy that he eventually found friends of his own in the Senju siblings. If I could, I would have traded Kakashi and Rin for Korone or Yujiro. Now those two would have been a riot to be around. Obito added. Wait a minute. I thought that you always had a big crush on Rin? Wasn't she like your academy sweetheart? Naruto asked. She was, but then I realized that after what happened to her during the war, that other than being teammates, we didn't really have anything special in common. Hell, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that other than being teammates and her being nice to me, I didn't really have much in me that wanted her beyond just someone to give a legitimate shit about me. So after some counseling and a lot of soul-searching, I eventually just moved on and went about my business. Obito answered regarding his feelings on Rin. Huh, counseling does really solve everything. Good for you, and see. I'm happy for you. Naruto said. Thanks, Naruto. Maybe you should consider it sometime too. With how much the twin terrors have been straight up bastards to you, on top of Pervy Sage having fucked up your family life with that prophecy. I'm pretty sure that you more than me could use a therapy session or 7. Obito told his nephew. Thanks, but I think I'll be fine. I don't really feel comfortable talking to some jerk who thinks he knows better than me. Naruto responded in not being the most comfortable with therapy per se. Look, I'm just suggesting it because I know you're a tough kid. Tougher than most your age, but I'd rather not see you literally eat your feelings away. I know that it's part of the reason why you got so good at cooking to begin with, and who could blame you if I kept it real with you. Obito spoke, knowing the other reason why Naruto liked cooking so much. Can you really blame me when one sibling will nearly take your ability to walk with a Rasengan, or try and beat you because he can't handle it when you're better than him at anything? Then the other either does whatever she can to crush my dreams, never lets it be known how I was born lucky to be in her shadow, or that I should stay in my place and learn to get used to being a civilian when compared to the future 5th Hokage. Naruto replied with a shrug of his shoulders. After all, when you had siblings that either terrorized you physically, mentally, or emotionally, that it just became a matter of finding something to throw yourself into so you could forget the fact that your family life was just an abusive shithole. It just so happened for Naruto that he found something that gave him joy in life other than training alongside his friends and the fellowship that came with it, that being cooking, either it being for himself and just making good food, or the joy he gained from making food for others and the happiness that came with bringing people together from it. Granted, as his stress reliever, it had developed into him becoming a stress eater, which showed itself in him being the second heaviest person in his classroom next to Choji, but given how it was one of the few things that made him happy, he would consider it a small price to pay. And I will never blame you for feeling how you feel. Hell, if I had my way, I would kick their asses from here to Bear Country for how much they and Pervy Sage have been rotten assholes to you. Obito said in sympathies for the hulking blonde. You and me both, UNC. But it is what it is, and the best I can do now is make it to next year. So I can get my headband, be with Sasuke and Sakura, and try to be happier than what I am most days. Naruto replied. And I wish you all the luck in the world. But the bottom line is, I want you to try to get help one of these days, alright? The last thing any of us want is for you to get so worked up or so down in the dumps that you wind up eating yourself into an early grave. Obito told Naruto as he put a hand of grace and understanding on his shoulder. Don't worry, I've got everything under control. I just need more time to get to where I need to be, Naruto said to the scarred Uchiha. I know you've got things handled, buddy. I know you do, and kudos for holding it down better than most. How fucking ever. You are still my little nephew. Even if you do have almost a full 100 pounds on me, I still worry about you. Obito replied as he looked at Naruto, who looked built more akin to an adult grizzly bear than a 17-year-old. Bottom line, do yourself a favor and get help when you can. Because it would be a crying shame if you went out on us, when you and I both know that you have so much to give, not just to the village, but to the world, the people around you, and everything else in between. Obito added in wanting the best possible for his nephew. I'll figure something out, Uncle Obito. I promise you I will. Naruto promised to the scarred Uchiha, who gave him a warm smile of comfort. I appreciate it, Naruto. Now come on. Let's head back in. I made you brownies for dessert, Obito told the massive blonde. With extra fudge in it? Naruto asked. Of course, with extra fudge, you giant goofball. Obito answered back plain as day. Score. Thanks, Sunsei. You're the best. Naruto cheered as he gave his uncle a giant hug of appreciation. No problem. Now let's go before it gets cold, Obito said as from there the two quickly headed back inside the compound. The next night, March 4th, 996 S.E. 10:40 p.m., Haruno household. Meanwhile, in the next night to follow was Naruto in his and Sakura's bedroom, goofing around as Naruto was messing with one of the powers granted to him by the Deva Path, as he was currently levitating a handful of marbles in a spiral pattern similar to a galaxy, while Sakura looked on in amazement. So other than messing with marbles and doing cool party tricks like that, have you tried any other cool stuff with whatever this part of your powers is called? Sakura asked as her brother continued to manipulate the marbles in the air. Not really, no. I'm pretty sure I'll think of something else to do with them. For now, I'm just figuring out all the weird stuff I can do right now. Naruto answered back as he used his Deva path to now manipulate them in a pattern reminiscent of an atom. I mean shit, we figured out that I can summon animals and who knows what else with one of my aspects. Another one lets me be a walking armory and this one gives me cool gravity powers or whatever the hell it is. Either way, it is still pretty cool no matter where you slice it. Naruto further spoke in regards to the various parts to his powers. Any ideas on what you're going to do with them once we graduate and get on a team? Sakura further questioned the ripple-eyed blonde. Honestly, I don't really have a clue. One of my ideas is to use the aspect that lets me summon animals to drop you on people like a bomb and let you get to work. Naruto replied. I'm alright with it. It's gonna take some work to be actually feasible in a fight, but if you can do that then I'm here for it. Sakura said back, being totally fine with it as long as they did some test runs. Awesome. Now I wonder if I can make a giant bull big enough to use as a battering ram. Now that'll be funny to pull on someone when we go on a kick-ass mission. Naruto wondered. Why not make it a mountain goat? That way you can have a giant battering ram that can climb up walls and mountains too. Sakura suggested to the Rinnegan wielder. Holy shit, that is a great idea. Thanks, Sakura. I dunno what I'd do without you. Naruto responded. Hey, we're practically family at this point. If you want to bounce ideas off me for whatever you want to do, then go for it. I am always happy to have you with me, Naruto. Sakura told him. Aw, you're the best, you know that, was Naruto's response as a wide grin spread across his face. Yeah, I know you giant goober. Just think, we have one more year of crap to deal with and then we can be a kick-ass team together. It's gonna be great. I just know it, Sakura said in excitement of one day being on a squad with her adoptive brother and Sasuke. Of course it is, between you being one of the best there is at taijutsu and assassination, Sasuke being an ace at kenjutsu, and me being stronger than just about everyone plus my new eyes. We're gonna be unstoppable. Heck, I'll go one step further and say that we'll be the next Sannin before we know it. Naruto replied, knowing that such things were in their reach. The next set of legendary Sannin? I can see that. Except that the three of us will be a lot more put together than what Lady Tsunade had to deal with back then. Sakura said, in knowing that at least they would be far less dysfunctional than the original set were. PFFFTT, you've got that right. I dunno how Granny did it being on a team with Pervisage being a creep all the time. Hell, I still wonder how she made it with Orochimaru. Don't get me wrong. I know he used to be a great guy before he went rogue, but after all the crap that happened I can't really blame him for going off the deep end. Naruto responded. I mean yeesh, having your apprentice go out like that on a mission. That has got to be just downright rotten luck, Sakura said regarding the infamous incident. Yeah, what happened to Uncle Nawaki was rough on everyone from what Granny told me. There was barely enough of him left to have a closed casket funeral. Naruto replied, knowing that Nawaki had one of the worst ways to die during the Second Great War. Oof, was it really that fucked? I heard that he got blown up really bad, but I didn't think it was closed casket bad, Sakura said back. I will put it to you like this. All that was really left of him was his head, half his torso, one half of his left arm. Everything from the belly button down looked like shredded brisket, and he had half his brains nearly falling out. Apparently, he was so busted up that Orochimaru couldn't even hold him together without chunks of him falling off. Naruto told his adoptive sister in regards to the younger Senju's fate. To say that Nawaki's fate had been a game-changer was an understatement. After all, when your first apprentice goes out so viscerally and you barely have enough to be constituted as a corpse, it would be enough to change anyone forever. So in hearing those war stories from his grandparents, so to speak, he could not blame Tsunade from nearly quitting being a shinobi, nor Orochimaru having had that be the straw that broke the camel's back in having to see, much less witness, the demise of someone so promising. There's a reason why I don't envy Granny and Gramps for having to go through what they did during the wars. That's some gnarly shit to have to deal with on the regular, and fuck me if I had to see something that fucked up. Naruto spoke in not envying Tsunade nor Dan in the slightest for what they went through. There's a reason and a half that war is fucked up, but if something like that does happen again, then I know for a fact that you, Sasuke, and I would come out on top without a problem, Sakura said back in complete confidence. You really think that if war popped off, that the three of us could come out on top like it's nobody's business? Naruto questioned. Are you kidding? We'd rock everyone in their collective shit. It's like I've said from the start that the three of us are strong together. But if it's the three of us, Naruto, then all of us are unstoppable and then some. I will bet our future positions as Chunin that together we could run shit and crush everyone in OU way, and there wouldn't be a thing in this world could stop us. Sakura answered back with a raptorial grin that held nothing but supreme confidence in what they could do together. All we have to do is get to the top where we belong, and I promise you, Naruto, that as long as I'm around, that I will make sure that nothing can hurt you ever again. Sakura swore to her giant of a brother. That sounds really nice, Sakura. All I want is to be strong enough to be my own person and make good food to share with everyone. That's really my only end goal at this point. Naruto told her in simply wanting the strength to do what he wanted and share his cooking to bring others together. Then that's what we're gonna do once we get our headbands. If you want to be the world's strongest cook, then I will help you get there. If you want to commit war crimes on some random backwater village, then tell me what you want and I will get us hooked up to do it. Heck, if you want beat a motherfucker with another motherfucker, then just call my name and we can start the village's greatest bar brawl to make human nunchucks out of people. Sakura said while Naruto continued to manipulate the marbles, this time into a tornado-like formation. Bottom line, Naruto, whatever you want to do, and whatever you need to make your endgame come true, all you have to do is come get me, and I will do everything I can to help make it happen, Sakura promised to the hulking blonde. The same goes for you, Sakura. I may not have much right now to work with, but whatever I do have on me, I will make sure that it goes to returning the favor right back. It is the least I can do for one of my favorite people in the whole world, Naruto said back in earnest. You really are the best brother a person could ask for, you blonde jackass, Sakura said with her ever-present pugnacious grin. Right back at you, you pink-haired ogre, Naruto responded in sibling jest towards Sakura, who couldn't help but snicker. Awkward sibling hug? Sakura asked the Rinnegan wielder. Awkward sibling hug, Naruto responded as the two went over to hug each other. But, both said as they gave each other a tight squeeze and thunderous backpats. I can't explain it, but I've got a good feeling about not only this year, but next year too, Naruto told Sakura once they broke apart the hug. Of course you should. You have me and Sasuke at your back. Plus you have a cool dojutsu that gives you superpowers. Honestly, I would be thinking the same thing if I was in your shoes, Sakura replied. Great point. Anyways, I think we should turn in for the night. It is getting pretty late, Naruto said back in seeing the hour having spun to a bit past 11 at night. Alright, well I'll see you in the morning. Good night, Naruto, Sakura said as she turned the lamplight and crawled under the covers. Good night, Sakura, was the blonde's response as he got under his own covers. I got super eyes and the world around me is starting to look a bit brighter for once. Maybe things can actually start to go my way for a change, were the Rinnegan wielder's thoughts before he laid his head to rest. With Naruto having recently awakened the eyes of T-Sage of Six Paths, his friends at his back, and a world of trial and tribulations to come, how will Naruto grow to obtain the strength he wants to have near unparalleled freedom to do as he please? Well, other than having to graduate the academy and become a genin first, you'll have to stick around and see in the all-new installments of You'll Never Keep Me Down, A Rippling Alternative, April 8th, 996 SE, 4:08 p.m., 10 miles outside of Konoha. It would be late in the April afternoon as our trio were currently with Naruto testing out more of the destructive powers of his Deva path. Namely Naruto's idea to compress the destructive repulsive/gravitational power of it as a projectile. Alright, here goes nothing, you guys, Naruto said as he switched into his Deva path and held out his fingers as though they were the barrels of a gun. Are you sure this is going to be a good idea, Naruto? Condensing your powers into something that finite is going to have a considerable amount of recoil. Sasuke spoke as he saw the gravitational power of the Deva path warble and condense repeatedly. That might be true, but it's going to be awesome if and when I can nail this in one go, Naruto replied as the buildup in gravitational force continued to grow. This is why I chose to take cover during Naruto's testing his powers out, Sasuke remarked as Naruto continued to build up more gravitational energy. wherein it was barely a minute before Naruto would fire off his variant of the almighty push dubbed as Hollow Point, wherein the gravitational might of the Shinra Tensei had been gathered as a bluish-black orb of compressed gravity the size of an orange and fired with incredible speed. The result once it made contact with the first solid object in sight, which was a dire wolf the size of a bus, was said dire wolf being immediately turned into a bloody paste from the sheer concussive and repulsory force that laid upon it. Yet the path of destruction did not end there, as after the initial point of impact a 210-foot-long by 15-foot-wide line of destruction was laid bare, leaving anything in its warpath flattened into crushed debris, hypercompressed gore, and utterly annihilated destruction that left jaggedly smooth obliteration. All the while Naruto looked on in amazement from the first attempt at his technique, albeit it did not come without the recoil that Sasuke mentioned, considering that concentrating such gravitational force into a condensed point left his hand shaking with tremors, as his bones creaked from the pressure of holding such a heavy construct of pure gravity. However, it was an acceptable drawback for something so powerful as Naruto was left gripping his shaking arm and his fingers having been dislocated from their joints to where they nearly flopped limp and twitching, with an amazed look that he was able to fire something so destructive from his own hands. Whoa, now that's something else, were the Rinnegan wielder's only words of his almighty push variant's debut. So, I don't know about you guys, but I think we can qualify that as a strong as shit technique. Just holy crap, is that strong. Naruto further spoke. That's great and all, but you're gonna need to work on the recoil for that. Because the last time I checked, firing off one of your techniques shouldn't leave one of your arms shaking like a tree branch in the wind, Sakura said as she went to take a look at his still shaking arm. Is it anything bad, Sakura? Naruto asked as she continued to look over his hand and arm. Other than you getting served a ton of pushback from it, on top of your fingers getting dislocated. You should be fine. I am gonna have to put your fingers back in, since you blew them out of your joints, Sakura answered back as she looked at his discolored fingers. That's good and crap baskets, that stings like hell, Naruto cursed as she began relocating his fingers into place. Of course it's going to sting, numbnuts. Putting your fingers back in place isn't going to feel like you're walking on sunshine, Sakura told him as she continued to relocate the rest of his fingers into place. Still, it was pretty cool what you just pulled off, Sakura further spoke with an encouraging smile. Thanks. Now if I can just not get my fingers jacked up by doing this, that would be great, Naruto said, wincing as his fingers were put back into place. At least we know that the techniques derived from your eyes are powerful, very powerful, if this is what you can do with only a few weeks of training with them, Sasuke remarked at the sheer destructive force before him. Just think, this is just after having my new set of eyes for 2 months. I'm pretty sure that by the end of the year, I am going to be a new level of busted, and by the time we hit graduation, not even the twin dickheads are going to be on my level, Naruto said, almost giddy at the prospect of what more he could do with his Rinnegan by the time he graduated. If your rate of growth so far with them is anything to go by, next to the elites of the village from Might Guy, Kakashi, Lady Tsunade and so on, there will be little that can get in the way of what you want, Sasuke noted. This also means that Sasuke and I are going to have to step our training up too, since you're getting this good and this strong with just 2 months of practice with your eyes, or whatever we call them. Then we need to ramp things up so we can stay on top of everything, Sakura said, knowing that if they were going to stay on equal footing with Naruto, that they were going to have to ramp up things by a large margin. Agreed, it wouldn't do anyone good if we slacked off, because Naruto decided to become a powerhouse on top of being ludicrously strong, Sasuke said in agreement with a determined smirk on his face. Like you would ever slack off on anything, Mr. I can cut through cinder blocks and shuriken with a single sword swing. The fact that you're good enough to make Tatsuki look like trash and some jonins look like featherweights says more than enough about you being a cracked as hell swordsman, Naruto chimed into the staggering amount of skill Sasuke held as a bladesman. And yet, I can still be so much better. There is always room for me to improve my skills as a swordsman, and I cannot rest until I surpass the collective strength of the likes of the 7 swordsmen themselves. In fact, to best even one in single combat would be a dream come true, Sasuke said, in hopes of one day making his name as a swordsman surpass the likes of the 7 swordsmen or even the 8 tails Jinchuriki. If there's anyone that can pull off being the greatest swordsman to ever do it, it's gotta be you, buddy, Naruto said with full faith in his friend's abilities as a swordsman. Thank you, Naruto. It is most appreciated. However, I must also ask, what do we do now? Sasuke asked. I can use my animal summoning aspect to pop up a new creature for us to train against, Naruto suggested to his two companions. That is fine by me / let's fucking go, were the answers of Sasuke and Sakura. Great, and I have just the thing for us to practice against. Give me one moment to summon him, Naruto said back as he used his animal path to summon the giant creature in question. Of all things for you to summon, a two-headed cassowary was not on my bingo card, Sasuke remarked as he pulled out his Chikudo and Odachi. Hey, it isn't that bad. It could have been so much worse, Naruto said as they looked up at the bright orange 28-foot-tall summon. What could be worse than a giant bird of prey? Sasuke asked as he got into a fighting stance. I could have made it a 30-foot-tall Wolverine instead. Now that would have been a whole can of fuck no to deal with, Naruto answered back as Sakura went into her 20% removal state. He's not wrong, you know, that would have been so much worse, Sakura spoke in agreement. Fair point, was Sasuke's response as the summon in question screeched bloody murder at them. That being said, let's get this party started, you guys, Naruto said back as he leaped into action alongside Sakura and Sasuke against the large summon. 1 week later, a kimchi barbecue, 3:10 p.m., April 17th, 996 SE. That being said, in the following week to come was Naruto currently thankful that he and Choji had made it through a rather large lunch rush that had ripped through the restaurant like a hurricane, and as such with Naruto, who was currently clocked out for the day and Choji on break, the two decided to have lunch before things started back up for the dinner rush to come. You know something, Choji? You would think being a server and busser would be a pain in the ass with my leg problems. But to be completely straight with you, it is not as big of a problem as it used to be, Naruto said as he cut into his smoked brisket. Does it even hurt anymore? No offense, Naruto, but it is insane how you can do everything around the restaurant and not kill over, Choji wondered as he tore off another rib to eat. Don't get me wrong, it does hurt occasionally. Sometimes I have my good days where I hardly feel a thing anymore, and then there are some days where it gets to be completely unbearable. It is all about learning how to deal with it, really, Naruto responded in regards to his damaged leg and the chronic pain he dealt with because of it. At least I've learned to sleep through the pain for the most part. It is still a nightmare to deal with, when it feels like someone is feeding it through a blender wrapped in barbed wire and soaked in Cajun seasoning and lime juice, Naruto added, in having learned to adapt to the constant pain of his left leg to where it was for the most part manageable. I don't get it. If it's been so bad for you all this time, then how come you've never gotten pain medication to help deal with it? Wouldn't it make things easier on you if you did that? Choji asked the hulking blonde. To keep it on the level with you, I don't really want to do it because then I would start getting dependent on them, which means if I run out, then I'm screwed, because now I have to physically need being on it all the time, on top of having a messed up leg. Then if I want to go off the meds in order to switch to something else, then I have to deal with going through withdrawals, and that's another pain in the ass I would have to deal with. That would start messing with me, Naruto told the portly Akimichi. So to keep it simple, too many cons, not enough pros for me to do it, Naruto further spoke. That makes sense, I guess. It just sucks that you gotta walk around in a leg brace being in pain all the time, Choji said, in hating how his friend had to live with being in chronic pain all the time. Hey, it is what it is. The best thing I can do is just keep moving forward regardless. Besides, I have great friends like you that keep my head up and my mind off of it, Naruto said back in not really bothered by it. If there's anything I can do to help keep your mind off it, then let me know. It's the least I can do for my best friend, Choji spoke as he continued eating his ribs. Tell you what, man, you keep being a good guy and being my snack buddy, and we call it even from there, Naruto told the Akimichi as he stuffed another forkful of brisket into his face. That sounds great to me, Choji replied. Awesome. Also, I packed you some granola and homemade potato chips to keep you going. I can't have my main man going through his double shift on an empty stomach, Naruto told Choji, who lit up with a meat-covered grin. Sweet. You're a lifesaver, Naruto, Choji cheered. No problem, man, it's what friends are for. I left them in the back for you. You can't miss it when you go in there. Naruto said to Choji. By the way, what kind did you make for me? Choji asked regarding the potato chips Naruto made for him. I made them honey hot and barbecue flavor. Naruto answered back. I dunno what I would do without you, Naruto. You always know how to come through for me on a double shift. Choji said as Naruto continued to eat more of his brisket and fries. Hey, we're on the struggle bus together, so if I can help you out, then it is no skin off my back to do it for you, Naruto said back as the two continued to eat their lunch together. Once Naruto would finish up eating with Choji and eventually bidding him goodbye as he prepare to go into his double shift and with it having to face the monstrous dinner rush to come, Naruto on the other hand would go alongside Sasuke and Sakura to do some training beyond the village as they have for the past 2 months. This time fighting Naruto, who was using his Azura path to be a one-man walking arsenal, wherein the act of fighting against him was easier said than done, especially given that Naruto had been getting more creative with said path. After all, with Naruto realizing he had access to all 5 chakra natures in wielding the Rinnegan, he had begun to wonder what would happen if he combined aspects of the Azura path with these chakra natures, and lo and behold it escalated the power of it to new levels, something that made long-range or close-range combat very much a difficulty. Given that Naruto had used the missiles of his Azura path and infused them with wind chakra to turn them into powerful concussion rockets that would turn anything they struck into sawdust and detritus in seconds, wherein his turning his right arm into a rotary cannon that he loaded with a bag of seemingly harmless metal ball bearings, that would have been easy enough to dodge if he hadn't focused earth chakra into said cannon arm and transformed the ball bearings that were being fired into what were essentially fist-sized shells that struck with enough force to turn boulders into dust on impact. However, Naruto's ranged assault worked wonders in helping Sasuke improve his defense overall, both against ranged attacks given that it pushed his Sharingan to work overtime to evade being hit by the deadly volleys fired at him and Sakura, as well as improve his reaction time to parry and deflect the attacks that came his way, which had allowed Sakura in her removal-enhanced state to begin closing the distance in having to use techniques from her sensei such as the Raging Fire technique to further accelerate herself to close the distance, and Flash Fire to use the afterimages to confuse Naruto's ranged assault. That being said, while this did work in making Naruto having to play the guessing game as he saw Sasuke begin to advance while keeping his staunch defensive and deft evasion against him without fail, and Sakura soon closed the distance at blistering speeds, Naruto decided to say screw it and make things further difficult on them by channeling wind chakra into another salvo of rockets that formed from a missile battery into his left arm and fired them all at once. This forced Sakura and Sasuke to take evasive maneuvers as the legion of concussion rockets came hurtling towards them at great speeds, which forced Sasuke and Sakura to divert from their warpath towards Naruto lest they become shredded by the projectiles in question. Yet Naruto wasn't done as the bombardment of rockets left further and further explosions of pure concussive force that pockmarked the forests with nothing but jagged spiral-shaped craters of debris, that left Sasuke and Sakura with fewer and fewer places to take cover from. That the Rinnegan wielder would keep Sasuke at bay by opening his mouth to reveal what looked like a high-tech gun barrel forming out of it, but instead of a laser beam as per normal, that the pink-haired bruiser in question was instead met with him focusing fire chakra through it to become a high-powered flamethrower. The hulking blonde then began spraying the stream out in a widespread arc of searing flames that left the swordsman pinned behind a wall of blazing fire, which left him to contend only against Sakura, who stood in a lethway stance ready to engage him in close quarters. As such, to meet her in kind, did Naruto transform his arms into something that would allow him to better handle Sakura in close quarters, that being his spouting a secondary pair of arms to fight with, as the two barreled at each other like two runaway freight trains. Wherein the moment the two made contact with each other did it erupt into a fearsome melee. The clashing of fists, elbows and kicks were heard as Naruto and Sakura exchanged blows like they were candy, with Naruto planting his feet into the ground and sticking it out in a war against Sakura, as one pair of hands unleashed thudding hooks and uppercuts to the body, while another would block the blows coming and retaliate with a countercross to the jaw or chest. Meanwhile, Sakura attacked with the relentlessness of a coked-out honey badger, striking out with elbows, knees, punches, kicks, and even the occasional headbutt to counter whatever Naruto threw, before lashing out with another or double the amount of strikes in retaliation. The two were trading blows with such unbridled ferocity that the ground beneath them rumbled and began to give way, the earth beneath them cracking as bruises and rivulets of blood were accumulated at a lightning-quick rate, in what had looked like a bloody war of attrition. This continued until Naruto blocked a reverse roundhouse kick to the neck and tanked a follow-through knee that busted his nose with a small CCRRACCKKK, as he used his extra limbs to grab onto her body and powerbomb her into the ground with great force. However, from the moment she impacted the ground, Sakura was quick to headbutt Naruto so hard that it split the skin of his forehead so hard he felt blood run down his face, allowing her enough time to wrap her legs around his neck and launch him away from her as she front-flipped to her feet. However, despite being launched a full 30 feet, Naruto used his Azura Path's bladed tail to anchor himself into the ground, jamming it into the hard grass-covered earth like a railroad ski, allowing him to tumble albeit roughly to his feet. Yet in that split second that he regained his surroundings would he subject to a sprinting Sakura who at the apex of her mad dash towards him had leaped towards him to deliver a fierce Ironbreaker Spartan kick to the liver, the attack dropping him to his knees as he felt his innards become nearly flush against his spine. The pink-haired bruiser going in for a follow-through hammer fist to the back of his head, but she was countered by the additional pair of arms blocking it and reeling her in so that Naruto could headbutt her so hard in the mouth that it busted her lip open. However, as he was about to land a double uppercut to her stomach with his extra pair of arms, he soon found a pair of blades at his neck in a scissor formation, with him peering behind himself to see Sasuke, albeit in singed training clothes, with a small smirk with his blades poised as though ready to decapitate him. You know, I should be mad that I didn't see you coming up behind me, but then again, I gotta appreciate a great ambush when I see it, Naruto said, in not even being mad that Sasuke snuck up behind him. I will admit that your bombardments on top of the close-range weaponry, this aspect of your eyes provided you were difficult to deal with. However, despite all of that, there's one thing about you that made it all possible. Sasuke replied, his smirk still ever present. I got too locked in when fighting Sakura, didn't I? Naruto asked as Sasuke nodded. As good as you are at fighting, you do need to remember to be aware of your surroundings. Otherwise, the next time that someone attempts to attack you, you may not be so lucky. Sasuke answered back as he took his blades away from Naruto's neck. Fair enough, but at least I'm getting better still, that you gotta give me, Naruto said. Yeah, but while you were getting better, I say let's move somewhere that looks a little less like a war zone and get patched up, Sakura suggested as she looked at the heavily cratered makeshift training ground around them. That is a good idea / smart move, Sakura, Naruto and Sasuke said back before the trio would move out and away from the scene. 3 days later, Forest of Death, 5:10 p.m., April 20th, 996 SE. All the while, Naruto would be with Sakura doing strength training using a summon from his animal path in the form of a ruby and silver-colored tortoise nearly the size of a small mansion that he was dragging behind him, wearing heavy weights on his chest, arms, and legs. Having gone for the better part of 2 miles as he trudged forward with Sakura to carry the monstrous amount of weight. Naruto, why the hell did you have to make this so fucking heavy? I swear if it was any heavier it would be the size of Kushina's fattest forehead, Sakura grunted as the two continued to drag the resisting summon throughout. Well, Suori, for wanting a challenge. It's not my fault you aren't built different. Also, is that bitch behavior I smell? Naruto gritted out as he and Sakura continued to stomp their way through the forest as the pink-haired bruiser looked back at him. Who are you calling a bitch, numbnuts? Sakura said as each footstep cracked the semi-muddy ground. The same person who has a pushed-back hairline. Your shit looks like one of Pervy Sage's toads took a machete and went buck wild, Naruto retorted as he stomped through the mud alongside her. At least I don't look like a honey badger and black bear hate-fucked each other, you damn giant. I don't know which is worse, your bottomless stomach or your waistline that's the size of Senju Park, Sakura shot back at the blonde. Fuck you, Haruno, Naruto said as he tried to stomp further ahead of Sakura with great effort. Eat a dick, Uzumaki, Sakura responded as the two tried to outrace the other in a matter of endurance and competitive jest. From therein, Naruto and Sakura continued their exercise in traversing another 1.5 miles of the Forest of Death, trading friendly insults and jabs at the other as they hauled the incredibly heavy summon that left a massive gouge in the muddy earth as they did so. The two practically red-faced as they stomped and half-raced their way to a stopping point, the veins in their faces, arms, thighs, and necks bulging from the effort of making it through their finish line, in both the thick mud and weighted clothing and heavy training weights they wore. As such, by the time they finished their strength/endurance training together and unhooking of the harness that had them tethered to the large summon, did the two take cover under the shade of a large maple tree, the dynamic duo in question red-faced and out of breath for having carried such a massive weight for roughly 4 miles of muddy terrain. However, even as they sat in their workout clothing sweating bullets, red-faced, their hearts thudding in their chests and covered in splotches of mud and grime, were the two nonetheless happy and smiling through it, enjoying of the others coming as they sat in the shade. Look at it this way, Sakura. We finally found a new way for training. It's a murder on my back and everything else to deal with, but damn it if we aren't going to be swole by graduation. Naruto said in being glad that he found a way to use his animal path for strength and conditioning. Yeah, but man, is it going to be nuts adding that on top of everything else we do. Between martial arts training we do together, strength and conditioning, and training to figure out all the crazy stuff your eyes can do. Plus my keeping up with my Lethway, Nico and Kure style training and making sure I stay pretty alright at first aid and medicine, because you know being from an assassin clan and all that. Holy crap, is our schedule loaded. Sakura spoke. That's not even counting my job at the Akimichis, Sasuke's Sharingan and sword training, and our having to maintain things at the academy so we can be on a team together. Naruto added in further listing off things on their plate. Honestly, now that I think about it, I wonder how much crazier things are going to be once we become real-deal shinobi? Naruto wondered. It's going to get so much more crazy, Naruto. If anything, what we have now is basically light work compared to what we will have to deal with. I mean, think about it, and I mean really, really think about it. Sakura told her adoptive brother. Well, hot damn, you're right. It doesn't matter though, since it's the three of us against the world. As long as it is you, me, and Sasuke going against everything, then I'm pretty sure we can get through anything. Naruto said with an optimism in his voice that made Sakura softly chuckle. I don't know how you do it, Naruto, but somehow you always wind up looking at the bright side of everything. Sakura said back in admiring his ability to consistently think positively on things. It's a lot better than being a sad sack about everything. Sure, I could be sad and depressed about my life and be all Mr. Gloom and Doom about what life throws at me. Then on the flip side of that, I can look to the future that's ahead of me and everything that I have been gifted with that makes me happy. Naruto spoke with a smile on his wearisome face. I'm great at cooking. I'm stronger than just about anyone in our whole class. I've got a good set of friends, a great support system and people who are like a second and third family to me. Plus a cool Kekkei Genkai that lets me have crazy superpowers. I think that so far what I have that makes me as happy as I am deserves more of my focus than all of the bad that has and will happen to me. Because I will take vibing with all the good and the things I am grateful for than letting myself stay head and shoulders deep in all the bad and the rotten. Naruto further spoke regarding his perspective on life. That's a pretty nice way to look at things, Naruto. If everyone had that way of thinking, then things wouldn't be so shitty out there in the world. Sakura said as the two continued to look up at the semi-cloudy April skies. Well, that's a them problem for everyone that's out there in the world. All I know is that as long the people around me are doing all right, and I'm having good vibes with them and vice versa, then that's what matters. Other than that, everything else in the world can choke on my right nut. Naruto replied. I feel the same way. That's why, the moment anything comes after you, Sasuke, or anyone else in our fucked up circle and they are dead on sight. No exceptions as far as I'm concerned. Sakura said back in agreement with the sentiment. Awesome, awesome. So what do you want to do now? We're covered in mud, tired, and sore all over from running 5 miles with a giant tortoise that probably weighs more than several houses combined. Naruto wondered as to what they could or would do next. We could go home, get cleaned up and get ready for dinner? That sound good to you, Naruto? Sakura suggested to the hulking blonde. Sounds great to me. I'm starving. I just wish I knew that it was going to be this muddy out. Then I would have picked the other set of training clothes. Naruto said as his stomach rumbled in agreement. It is what is, Naruto. I just hope that we don't have mud in places where there shouldn't be. Otherwise, this is going to be a very, very long evening. Sakura replied in hoping that they managed to not get mud and dirt in anywhere that would make her feel gross. Well, there's only one way to find out. Naruto said back as he stumbled up to his feet. Doesn't mean I'm gonna like it. By the way, are you helping Mom cook dinner tonight? Sakura asked as she hopped up to her feet to walk back alongside the blonde. Of course I am. You should know that I'm always signing up for cooking duty. Naruto answered back with an excited grin to help Mabuki cook dinner for himself, Sakura, and the Haruno matriarch. 1 week later, April 29th, 996 SE, Rice Country, Otogakure, 3:25 p.m. All the while, in the following week to come in Otogekure as Kabuto was delivering the last few blood/data samples to his master in Orochimaru that had been acquired by a few of his underlings within Konoha. Excellent work, Kabuto. With these samples that you have acquired, the completion of my final body will soon be at hand. Orochimaru spoke as he looked at the large vials containing the last of what was needed. Of course, Lord Orochimaru. I will admit that it was difficult to get these last few samples as requested. However, after a few weeks of memorizing the security detail schedule, it was nothing short of easy to do as needed. Kabuto replied. However, I do have to ask what you are expecting out of your final body? Given that with the cocktail of biological samples you have gathered from the clans requested is interesting to say the least. I have no doubts that it will be powerful, but overall I have been curious to know what you are desiring out of it. Kabuto further spoke, wondering where the Serpent Sannin was going with this. To put it simply, the desired and certainty of what my final body will be is simply this. It is a form that will guarantee longevity, strength, and power enduring. What I want will assure that my ability to learn the many jutsu that are out there will come to pass, but it will ensure a secondary goal of mine as well. Orochimaru replied as he looked at the floating form of his final body alongside his right hand. What would that be? Kabuto questioned. To better understand and help perfect the human condition, was the Serpent Sannin's reply. I'm not sure I understand where this is going. Would you mind elaborating? Kabuto requested. But of course, my trusted confidant. You see, while understanding all the jutsu there is to know is one of my objectives to accomplish in this life. If only for the thrill and seeking of knowledge that comes with it. However, that is only one aspect to my pursuits, as one of my main and continual objectives is to better understand the human condition and how those both normal and those with various Kekii Genkai are not only affected but can evolve to their penultimate endpoint. Orochimaru responded, their golden eyes in deep thought over the subject. Despite everything, there is still so much that we do not know about the human condition. How someone as unassuming as Hiruzen-sensei can grow into the god of shinobi. How Madara and Hashirama can, even amongst the most powerful shinobi clans, become anomalies that can bring entire cultures to their knees. To even the Jinchuriki at large, from the 8 tails in Kimogakure, the 4 and 5 tails in Iwagakure, and so on and so forth, with the exception of those in Konoha who are more exaggeration and spectacle than anything of substance. All coming from varying factors and ways of life that bring power and unique capabilities that are nothing short of fascinating, and as such something I wish to study further. Orochimaru further spoke. Is that why you have decided to give aid to the rebellion in Kirigakure, and even allowed their refugees to come to village? Kabuto inquired. Precisely, while it means I can study Kekii Genkai of incredible fascination and even take those of interest to evolve their unique abilities further. I do this also to preserve and study what brings out the best in a person, what makes a person have that X factor to break beyond their limits. That is one of the main reasons as to why I do as I have done for the rebellion, and to let such interesting data be wasted by a runt of a Kage. That is regrettable to say the very least. Orochimaru answered back. I won't disagree with you on that subject. Why Yagura would go through with these purges to begin with is frustrating to understand. Why would a Kage purposely weaken his own forces to that degree? Especially when the versatility and variety of his forces in regards to their Kekii Genkai rival, if not surpass most of the hidden villages. Kabuto spoke in having often tried to figure out the enigma of why Yagura would do such a confusing thing. That is an answer that has evaded me as well. Nonetheless, it is something that works out to our benefit in the end. Orochimaru said back. But to the topic at hand, I must also ask, if you are going to find your own limitations to shatter once you gain your new body? I can imagine that with someone of your intelligence and ambition, that the measure of what you will put it through will be nothing if not staggering. Kabuto queried as a thin smile spread across the Sannin's face. You would be correct in that regard. Once I settle into my new body, I plan to explore all of the ways in which I can measure the strength and ability to what I will be able to accomplish. After all, why should I settle for a powerful vessel when I can extrapolate every ounce of talent and power from its arteries and see what the full breadth of the human condition is capable of? Orochimaru answered back. With the Serpent Sannin, since his tenure with his former teammates and throughout both wars and to this point, had always found a curiosity of what the limits of the human physicality and mentality were capable of, such things were of a high fascination to him, on how they allowed someone to shatter the limitations normally imposed upon others, given that it allowed a rank-and-file orphan like the fourth Hokage to become a living legend, the fence-sitter of Atsuchikage to hold his position through both devastating power and cunning. This, among so many examples from Tsunade's immeasurable prowess in medicine, the third Raikage being so immensely powerful that he could boast not only legendary durability but best the Eight Tails in single combat, to Hanzo's own combative prowess that allowed him to crush him and his teammates with ease. All of these things and more called Orochimaru's focus towards unraveling the mysteries of and studying to see what made a person strong and more importantly what could be done to evolve them to a higher state of strength. And how far do you think you can go with it? Not that I am doubting your strength, but given that there are others out there from the fourth Hokage, your former teammates, Pain of the Akatsuki, Itachi and Obito Uchiha, the current Raikage, the Eight Tails and Seven Tails Jinchuriki and Waterfall, and even Yagura, you will have a wealth of contenders that can oppose you, Lord Orochimaru. Kabuto questioned in listing off some of who could potentially match the Serpent Sannin in his final vessel. That is a good question. Kabuto granted, I do not know the full totality and strength of what my final vessel will be able to achieve. This is something that for all of the numbers and hypotheticals I can run, that my results will remain inconclusive. Orochimaru admitted, which surprised his right hand to hear come from him. This is a first that I have heard come from you, Lord Orochimaru. Normally you are certain of the results of your experiments. If anything, the least I have ever heard from you in terms of uncertainty is that they will have a 10 to perhaps 18% margin for error at worst. What's changed to have you come to this conclusion? Kabuto queried, surprised to hear anything of the sort come from the mad genius. It is that in my endeavor to create a final vessel of boundless potential and power that can house the greatness of my mind, that I have in turn made something that I cannot accurately gauge nor predict the power of. Orochimaru answered. Even with field testing, training, and all the trials of seeing where the strength of what I will become lies, I still cannot accurately give a true estimate of where the limits and power of my final vessel will stand. The prospect of such a thing both excites and intrigues me. Orochimaru added in excitement of seeing what the nigh unlimited potential of his final vessel could yield. And what is the first thing that you will do once you have successfully adapted to your new body? Kabuto questioned the Serpent Sannin, who still had his thoughtful gaze upon the floating figure within the tank. There are a few things that I have in mind. However, one of them is settling something with the Akatsuki. That pretender who thinks himself a deity and his cabal of rogue ninja have had it good for far too long. As such, I plan to give them a wake-up call of sorts. Orochimaru answered back in having that as one of the first things on his itinerary. If that is the case, I hope that you have contingencies in place for when they decide to retaliate. I may not know much of their leader, but from what you have told me, he is not one to take attacks against his organization lying down. Kabuto said. Oh, but I do, Kabuto. I am many things, but needlessly reckless is not one of them. I would not plan to go against him if I did not have something to counter him. He may think himself a god, yet he has not even come close to scratching the surface of the term. Orochimaru responded in having a handful of countermeasures prepared especially for the god of aim. Are there any that I would need to implement for the safety of the village? Kabuto questioned. There are a few, yes, and I should thank you for reminding me of them. I will be sure to inform you of them once I have transferred myself to my new body. Orochimaru answered back. Good, good. And one last thing I would like to ask of you. When will you begin transferring yourself into your new body? Kabuto questioned the Serpent Sannin. By July at the earliest and the end of August at the latest. With these new samples in place, it will take nothing but a few weeks if not a month to safely combine them with my final vessel. From there, it is a simple matter of preparations to make the transference possible. Orochimaru informed the silver-haired medic. Understood, and that is good to know. In the meantime, while you are preparing everything for your final vessel, is there anything that you need of me before I go? Kabuto asked. At the moment, no. However, your help is greatly appreciated, Orochimaru said back before allowing Kabuto to leave his sight. Soon enough my final vessel will be complete, and with it, I will have all that I need to truly evolve to the pinnacle of the human condition. Were the Sannin's thoughts as he went to work on perfecting his final and most powerful vessel yet. And so as our intrepid trio begin to discover the capabilities of Naruto's Rinnegan, and what can be accomplished with its vast capabilities, We also see that Orochimaru begins the process of making his final vessel one of boundless potential and power that will allow them to understand and possibly evolve beyond the human condition as he understands it. How will this all come to pass as Naruto works to understand the strength of what he wields with the Rinnegan and Orochimaru working to create something of unimaginable strength? Well, you'll have to stick around and see in the all-new chapters of You'll Never Keep Me Down. A rippling alternative. Alright, that'll do it for this one, as I hope that you guys enjoyed everything that went in on this chapter as Naruto begins to finagle with what exactly are the limitations of the Rinnegan and how he can train with it. Because we can only go up from here on the shenanigans that I cannot wait to get into. And as such, I not only appreciate everyone who is coming on board for what's to come, but I hope that everyone will continue to support the story going forward. That being said, this is Nomadic Chaos using the power of chaos and our sponsored patron, Mr. Blood for the Blood God and Skulls for his Skull Throne, to give you guys good stuff to read. Wherein the next chapter will be sort of a mixed bag in what's to come, so stay tuned for all of that. Part 1 Theme Song, Dead Cell by Papa Roach. Random End Song, Renegades of Funk by Rage Against the Machine, May 22nd, 996 SE, Senju Park, 2:10 p.m. It would be 10 minutes after 2 in the afternoon as our intrepid trio were enjoying a picnic together and vibing together on what they had planned for the summer to come. Well guys, we've just about made it through another year of nonsense. Just one more and we can call it quits to being stuck at the academy, Naruto said as he continued to eat his pulled pork. I will be so glad to be done with this bullshit. Wearing that disguise and pretending to be so weak all the time is almost nauseating. Sakura replied, hating how she had to continue to limit herself. You're telling me, and don't get me wrong, I'm fine with wearing what I need to cover up how much bigger I am than everyone. But at some point it's just annoying pretending that I can't literally launch most of our classmates around like they're made of origami paper. Naruto said in agreement in having to constantly hide his own immense bulk and physicality. How no one realizes that you are built like a human grizzly bear I will never know. Especially when you're over 6 feet tall and almost as wide as a refrigerator. Sakura remarked at the immensity of her adoptive brother. The same can be said for you looking like a damn Oni when you aren't in disguise. Miss, I make most Umbu look like a toothpick, Naruto said to the pink-haired martial artist. I do not look like a Oni, Sakura shot back. Sakura, you are nearly 6 feet tall, you outweigh me and are more muscular than most Chunin and even some Jonin. That in tandem with your heritage as a Kurei, makes it more than apparent that you look like an Oni. At this point, you may as well accept what you are. Sasuke spoke in agreement with Naruto's assessment of Sakura's appearance. Something that couldn't be overstated enough, given that with her standing at 5'10", weighing in at 186 pounds of solid muscle, and having a frame that while feminine spoke more to her love of martial arts and the aggression and brutality that came with it. All of which combined with her broad shoulders, black and white eyes showing herself as a member of the Kurei clan, and her elbow-length mane of bright pink hair that Sakura Haruno more than fit the description of an Oni. All she was missing with the sharpened teeth, horns, and claws. Whatever. Anyways, once the academy lets out for the summer. Do you have anything planned, Sasuke? Sakura questioned. Other than looking to someone to apprentice under in order to further improve my skills in Kenjutsu. I have nothing planned other than helping Izumi and Itachi, where I am needed. The fact that I am going to be an uncle this August or September at the latest still feels unreal. Sasuke told his friends as to what his plans for the summer were. Oh yeah, I still can't believe that your brother and his old lady are expecting their first kid. No offense, but I never would have pegged Itachi as the one to want to be a dad, Naruto said. Neither did I nor anyone else in the clan. However, once they broke the news that Izumi was pregnant, it has been all hands on deck to make sure that things go well for Izumi's pregnancy. Sasuke responded. It is honestly the strangest feeling to know that in a few months, that the clan will be welcoming a new addition into the fold. Sasuke further spoke in feeling an odd mix of feeling that while mostly positive had him excited nonetheless. And congratulations to you on being an uncle. I know that you'll crush it, Naruto said to the aspiring swordsmaster. Thank you, but in all honesty, Naruto, I would worry more for Itachi. Out of everyone, he is the most nervous over the situation. You would think that someone who is regarded as a prodigy of our clan, in addition to becoming one of the youngest captains of the Umbu, that he would have everything accounted for. It is almost hilarious to watch it all unfold. Sasuke said back in having found his elder brothers overthinking of how to be a father to be one of the funniest things to come of it. Has he gotten to the point where he's stockpiling manuals on how to dad yet? Sakura asked. How did you know, Sakura? Sasuke asked, surprised at her incredibly accurate guess. We are talking about the man who prepares for everything down to what time his alarm goes off. Would it really be that out of the blue to assume he'd start hoarding manuals on how to be a dad and handling a toddler? Sakura replied, knowing that Itachi was someone who couldn't help but prepare for every little thing down to the wire. Fair enough point. That being said, I think that he is overthinking things far too much. My brother fails to grasp that there is no one true method of raising a child. Sasuke spoke whilst everyone continued to eat from their picnic. Look at it this way, Sasuke. At least you get to see your brother crash and burn at being a first-time father. Sakura said back as Sasuke couldn't help but chuckle. And I will be watching with a camera in hand to record it all. Watching my brother have to learn how to put a toddler to sleep for the first time should be a sort of entertainment all on its own, Sasuke said as he munched on a turkey leg. By the way, what are yours and Naruto's plans for the summer, since we are sharing what we intend to do throughout it? Sasuke questioned. Other than training and doing what we normally do, I was thinking that Naruto and I could do a few assassination jobs for the clan. It won't really hurt to get our feet wet and really make our summer one to remember, plus it'll get Naruto some actual experience tests driving his eyes. Sakura informed the Uchiha. I can assume that Naruto is fine with this, even with the risks involved? Sasuke questioned as he looked to Naruto, who swallowed a mouthful of food to answer. Yup, plus I have Sakura to watch my back. If there was anyone that I would trust to look out for me when I have to do anything, it would be the best sister in the whole world. Naruto answered back. Ah, thanks you giant goober, Sakura said, giving the massive blonde a side hug. The only other concern I have is how you are going to be able to have someone to cover your shifts at the Akimikis. Otherwise, I have no doubts in my mind that you and Sakura will do exceptionally. Sasuke questioned the Rinnegan wielder. That's actually something I already got covered. Since I don't really use any of my paid vacation days off, I practically have a horde of them just sitting around doing nothing. That's why this summer, I'm going to cash in and make the most out of it. Naruto answered back in seeing no better use for his abundance of days off than to go on escapades with Sakura. I would say more on the matter, but considering that it is the two of you on an assassination mission, I feel far more worried for whoever your targets will be than either of you. Sasuke spoke. I don't know if I should feel insulted or take that as a compliment, Naruto said back, wondering which to take the response as. I think it is a compliment, but I would just roll with it. Besides, by the time semester rolls up again, you're going to be a whole other level of badass by the end of it. Sakura told the Rinnegan wielder, who grinned a meat-filled grin. Hell yeah. This is going to be one of the greatest summers ever. Naruto cheered in excitement of what was to come. Nevertheless, it looks as though the three of us are going to have a very busy summer. Sasuke spoke in seeing that things were going to be extremely productive for all three of them overall. You got that right, Sasuke. To a kick-ass summer, Naruto said. To a kick-ass summer, were the responses of his friends. Great, now who wants pie? I made more than enough for all three of us, Naruto asked as he pulled out a large apple and peach pie for all of them to share. 1 week later, the Academy, 3:45 p.m., May 30th, 996 SE. All the while, as the last day of the Academy came to a close, Naruto would stay behind to talk with Mizuki in regards to revealing to him the secret of his Rinnegan. Alright, what was it that you wanted to show me, Naruto? Mizuki questioned. First things first, I want your word that you won't freak out, Naruto answered back. You have my word that I'm not going to freak out. Now show me what's so important that you needed to show me. Well, fuck, Mizuki said as Naruto soon took out his contacts to reveal his Rinnegan. Out of all the things I thought I would see in my life, this was not on my bingo card. Mizuki further spoke as he looked at his ripple-eyed student. So apparently, I have a pair of super eyes that let me do a lot of cool stuff. Surprise, Naruto told his favorite sensei. Naruto, Do you know what those eyes you have are? Mizuki questioned. Nope, not a clue. I've been messing around to see what they can do, and so far it has been some pretty funny stuff. Now if I can just learn to make a mini sun, that would be awesome. Naruto responded. What you have are the eyes of the Sage of Six Paths, otherwise known as the man who invented ninjutsu. Just holy shit, this is a new level of crazy. Mizuki informed the hulking blonde of what he possessed. Wait a minute. I have legendary super eyes. Okay. This has to be one of the coolest things I've learned all day. Naruto said, absolutely hyped about learning that his eyes were on some god-tier levels of awesome. I also have to ask if you have told anyone else about this? Because having the fuck-mothering Rinnegan of all things is definitely something that you don't go telling just anybody. At least not unless you're a powerhouse that can do whatever the fuck you want levels of strong. Mizuki questioned the blonde before him. Other than Sasuke and Sakura, you are the only other person that I've told about this. I kinda wanna keep this more to myself until I can get a better handle on it. Because it's been a bit of an adjustment to get used to. Naruto answered back in regards to whom he has told thus far about his Rinnegan. No offense to the Uchihas, Granny and Grandpa, the Kureis or anyone else in my circle. It's just that going from just being a guy that's built like a fridge and looks like a hobo, to having a set of eyes as one of the founders of what we do. It's kind of a major life changer that is just, well, it's just been both a ton of fun to play around with and been crazy to figure out. Naruto further spoke. Hey, I won't and can't really blame you about keeping this all under wraps. If anything, it means a lot to me that I was one of the first you decided to tell about this. Mizuki said back, genuinely flattered that his student came to him out of all people to tell about his jujitsu. You have been in my corner since day one. You always had my back when it came to my craptastic siblings. Plus you and Aunt Shizen helped me come up with that would clone body double with Yujiro. On top of just being a great guy in general, I know that I can come to use for just about anything. Naruto said to the white-haired Chunin. Someone had to do something to get you away from those two. How they get away with as much crap as they do, I will never know. Mizuki said in disgust of the twin Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. They have Pervy Sage in their corner, Mizuki-sensei. Which is why, as much as I cannot stand him, you have to get that guy credit where it's due when it comes to P.R. and making things either look good or downright rotten. Naruto told the Chunin in knowing full well that Jiraiya was skilled when it came to the art of public perception. Fair fucking point. He did help Lord Fourth get his reputation up as the Yellow Flash and help get what was needed from Lord Ozai to get the village back up and running after the Nine Tails. So now that I really think about it, Mizuki said in acknowledgement of Jiraiya's gift of gab. That's why as long as he's around and backing them with that chosen heroes of the village prophesied to save the world nonsense, then they can do whatever they want. Why else do you think I chose to keep my mouth shut after the incident? Naruto spoke knowing that his siblings basically had a semi-blank check to get away with anything short of murder. Yeah, that's one of the worst things about all this. Look, Naruto, for what it's worth Mizuki said in sympathies for his student. I already know what you were getting to say and I appreciate the thought, but I've already made my peace with what happened. Hell, I'm just glad I can still walk, much less train. So believe me when I say that I don't really think about it all too much. It just is what it is at the end of the day, even if I don't really like what almost came about it. Naruto said, his bright blue eyes looking down at his sundered leg that occasionally spasmed with phantom pains that at this point were just as much a part of him as breathing. Anyways, I'm just glad that you are being so cool about all of this, Mizuki-sensei. It means a lot that you're cool with my new pair of eyes. Naruto said in changing the subject to a brighter one that didn't make his head spin and his blood churn like curdled milk. Not a problem at all. Hey, if you want, I can get in touch with my boss and see if he can't help get you training to work with your Rinnegan? Mizuki suggested. That sounds awesome. If he can help me get a better lock on Y eyes and knowing what they can do, then I am all here for it. Naruto said, completely down for getting extra training from someone of Mizuki's camp. Trust me, my boss can make anyone an A-class threat to be messed with, which is why if he and the others on deck can't turn you and your Rinnegan into the embodiment of being a menace, then I honestly don't know who can in the village. Mizuki told Naruto in knowing that with his boss's help that his student would become nothing short of immensely powerful. Sweet, and tell me what they say and when they want to meet them. Because I am more than happy to see what I can really do with my new powers. Naruto spoke, eager to see what more he could do with his Rinnegan in the full totality of its abilities. And you have my full support with all of that. Seeing you become something amazing is on my top 10 list, Naruto. So let's make that happen as soon as possible, Mizuki told his student. Thanks. Anyways, I'm gonna go. I have a shift that I need to get to and I cannot be late. So I'll see you soon, Mizuki-sensei. Naruto told his sensei as he checked the time and saw that he had to get going quickly for the oncoming dinner rush. Alright, I'll see you later, Naruto. Good luck and Godspeed to you this summer, Mizuki said to Naruto, who began putting his contacts back in. Thanks and good luck and Godspeed to you too, Naruto said before rushing out the door. If there was anyone that I am glad has that kind of power, it would be him. Now how I'm going to explain this to my boss is a different problem altogether, Mizuki remarked to himself as to how he was going to break this all down. June 3rd, 996 SE. Hokage Monument. 4 days later, 1:40 p.m. All the while as the start of June would come into full swing, would Naruto find himself hanging out with his cousin and resident stoner king of Konoha, Yujiro Senju, who Naruto was eating lunch with as his cousin was high eating some of the dumplings that Naruto had made for him. Thanks a ton for making me some dumplings, Naruto. I swear having a little cousin who makes kick-ass food is awesome. Yujiro spoke as he continued to eat out of the large bowl's worth of chicken/lamb dumplings. When you love to cook as much as I do, it's pretty much a guarantee that your cooking has to be outstanding. Otherwise, what's the point of making food if it doesn't taste amazing? Naruto replied as he ate his own shrimp and pork ramen. I'm pretty sure that if you wanted to, you could teach a cooking class or two at the academy. Great-grandpa Hashirama knows that some of those little bastards could learn how to make something other than toast. Yujiro spoke as he continued to eat his dumplings. You definitely aren't wrong, Yujiro. Everyone wants to be a shinobi, learn cool jutsu, and do all this extra stuff that's all good and well. But no one ever thinks about how they need to feed themselves, how they need to recognize what is and what isn't edible, or better yet, how to make a simple yet great meal on the road. Idiots, the lot of them, for not wanting to know or even learn how to make a good meal. Naruto replied, knowing that being a kick-ass and uber-powerful shinobi was great, but knowing how to feed yourself was equally, if not more important. It is one of the few things I will never understand that they don't teach more of at the academy. It wouldn't even be that hard either. Just dedicate a few months or so, and everyone would be golden. Naruto added, in not understanding why there wasn't a cooking class at the academy. Hey, you're asking the wrong person. But if you're so gung-ho about it, then why don't you petition to get one started up at the academy? I'm pretty sure you and some of the Akimichis would crush it, with a cooking class at the academy. Yujiro asked the Rinnegan wielder. I am the last one to have teach anyone about anything. Being good at cooking is one thing, but teaching people how to cook is a different thing altogether. With how high my standards are when it comes to making good food, I'm pretty sure I would put someone's head through a wall from how much they'd fuck a simple recipe up. Naruto answered back, knowing that with his standards combined with his temper, it would be a recipe for disaster. Hey, I'm just putting it out there, my guy. You are a natural when it comes to cooking, so as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't hurt to spread the love, Yujiro said to his cousin. Yeah, but again, I do not have patience for failure. It's also the reason why I will never be a Jonin sensei. I only have one setting, and if they can't keep up with it, that's on them. Naruto replied in regards to his resistance to teaching in any capacity. I won't judge at all, but I gotta ask, even if you do manage to get on a squad with your dumbass friends, what's the game plan after that? Yujiro questioned as he reached to light another blunt. I dunno, probably get as strong as possible, work with Sasuke, Sakura, and whoever our sensei winds up being. Dear God, I hope it isn't Kurenai, because fuck that drunk-ass skank. Then from there, just level up and go on a bunch of dope missions until the Chunin exams start up. Naruto answered back as he ate more of his ramen. Which reminds me, if I do manage to get someone halfway decent like Uncle Obito, or on a slightly shittier note Kakashi, do you mind helping co-train us? So we can get strong as shit? Naruto requested of his cousin. You sure that's a good idea? Because I may be chill as fuck, but I am regarded as one of the strongest to ever do it in Konoha for a reason. Hell, they're even putting me up there as the next coming of Great-Grandpa Hashirama. Yujiro wondered, And that's exactly why I say we get you on board to do it. Because who better to help us get stronger than one of the best in the business? Other than Grandpa Dan, Granny, Rayan, my bonus mom Ibuki, Itachi, or Corrine. There's not really any other powerhouses close to us that I'd choose to help us out. Naruto said to the powerful stoner beside him. Shit, you're not wrong. But just so you know, if you or your friends get their shit absolutely rocked by me, you asked for it. Yujiro told his cousin. Wherein the Wood Release user knew full well of his own immense strength as one of the rare few to be a S-rank threat within Konoha. As such, he saw the request of him potentially co-training his cousin and his friends to be greater as a request he couldn't pass up. Since it was from his own perspective that if Naruto was bold enough to ask him this, knowing full well that he wasn't one to pull punches and how much he loved to fight in general, then who was he to say no? Hey, I know what I'm getting into, but if I really want to be great and show that I can hack it as a ninja, then I have to do whatever I can to be the best version of myself possible. You did the same growing up when you were my age. Naruto responded after getting his blunt to finally light. Yeah, those were the days. Shit, the fact that Korone and I will still go beating the shit out of high-ranking ninjas. For shits and giggles says more than enough. Yujiro said back regarding one of his and his sister's favorite pastimes. The fact that you do that to people out of sheer boredom and come out on top, say it all about you guys being built different. Naruto remarked on the brass balls on his cousin to hunt high-ranking shinobi for sport. Hey, when you get to be at the top of the mountain, it gets pretty boring up there, so you eventually find stuff to take up your time. Mine just so happens to be training with my Wood Release, getting high and being a menace to society. Yujiro spoke with a small grin. Plus, it's just really funny to watch them squirm when I stomp them in their shit. It's honestly one of the funniest things in the world to do to people. Yujiro added in enjoyment of one of his favorite pastimes. I'll take your word for it, Yujiro. Plus, why else do you think I love cooking so much? It helps me keep me going, and it's the one thing I can rely on when I join you and everyone else at the top. You gotta have something around so you just in case you get bored of everything and want to have a fallback option. Naruto said in seeing his talents in cooking as one of the best options possible should he feel as though the shinobi life was either not it for him or just not of interest any further. And it's that kind of thinking that'll keep you from being a burnout. Good on you for having something in your back pocket so you don't crash out from boredom, Yujiro said before taking a deep inhale of his weed and blowing out a thick cloud of smoke. If the day comes that I ever decide to crash out, then you will know from a mile away. Trust me when I say that if that day comes, I'm going to make it everyone's problem. Naruto replied. You know, if you ever want to, I will be glad to lend you something out of my personal stash. It never hurts to smoke a few trees to take the edge off. Yujiro offered to his younger cousin. Thanks, but I think I'm good for now. I may take you up on the offer later, but for now I rather like not smelling like something Gamabunta puked up, because he got wasted on sake. Naruto said back in decline of the offer. Alright, suit yourself. But if you ever change your mind, the offer is always there. Yujiro told the Rinnegan wielder. Thanks a ton, and I appreciate it. Right now, I'm just trying to keep my head on straight until graduation day next year. Just one more year of nonsense and I will be scot-free, Naruto said as he looked up at the sunny day ahead of him. I don't know how else to explain it, Yujiro. It's almost like I can feel my chance at becoming a super cool shinobi right in front of me. All I have to do is reach out to take it with my bare hands, and then I can finally be one of the greatest to ever to do it. I just know it in the pit of my stomach I can make it happen. Naruto further spoke in feeling as though he could almost tangibly grasp the potential and possibility of strength and freedom unlimited. And I know you can do it, giant bastard. Shit, you've got a whole army of people rooting for you, pitching in to help where we can, and anything else under the sun you need. I would be surprised if you didn't become a total badass. Yujiro replied in support of his giant of a cousin. Thanks, by the way. How much of a badass do you think I can be down the line? Naruto asked as he continued to devour his ramen. I'd say give it enough time and you could make something shake to where you'll be as strong as Dad was in his prime. Better yet, I'd say probably up there with the likes of Lord Third when he still had a hairline. Yujiro answered back. Damn. Now I really have something to aspire to, Naruto said with a hopeful smile. Hell, I just might make myself up there with the greats. The real question is, how far can I go with my new eyes to take me to the fucking stratosphere? Naruto wondered to himself as he continued his lunch alongside his now-baked cousin. The next day, 11:25 a.m., Route H.Q, June 4th, 996 SE. That being said, in the day to follow was Mizuki reporting to his boss in regards to Naruto's being in possession of the fabled Rinnegan and where to go from there, regarding the hulking blonde. The best part about it is, he actually wants our help to get training on understanding this. I am telling you that if we take Naruto and help get him trained, then we are looking at someone who can make the nine-tailed brats look like trash. Mizuki told the Warhawk. This is definitely a positive turn of events. To think that someone who has the eyes of the Sage of Six Paths was hiding under our noses. This is very great news indeed. Danzo spoke. So how do we handle this, boss? Because the faster we act on this, then faster we get another powerhouse under our belt and someone who can hard counter the twin idiots. You, myself, and everyone else en route and the Umbu know full well that we need something reliable to stop those fuckers if they become a problem. Mizuki questioned in regards to recruiting Naruto to their side of things. I want you to go to him at your earliest convenience. The quicker we get to him and make sure that he not only is trained in mastering a highly valuable and potent asset, then the faster we have not only a counter to the Jinchuriki. It is also the faster that we gain another weapon to strike out at the enemies of the leaf. Danzo answered back. Understood, and I will get it done as soon as possible. There is one thing I would like you to do for Naruto if he completely agrees to join up with us. Mizuki requested. What would that be? Danzo asked with a scrutinizing gaze. I want you to work your magic and see if you can make sure that Naruto winds up on a team with Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha. That, and making sure they wind up with someone good as a Jonin sensei. Mizuki answered back regarding the nature of his request. What would be the reasoning behind this request of yours, Mizuki? I will need some form of elaboration if I am to pull the necessary strings and apply pressure when needed. Danzo questioned the operative before him. The thing is that Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura already show not only an incredibly strong sense of camaraderie and friendship, something that will make them work incredibly well in the field. It is also so that we don't wind up with Naruto potentially being signed onto a team with his siblings. You and I both know that if that happens, that it will be a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. Mizuki explained. That is a good point, not to mention that their pride and ego will drag down the level of strength needed to make Naruto a suitable asset for what is to come. What with Jiraiya involving them in this prophecy, that is a disaster waiting to happen, and as such breeding them to be arrogant cretins rather than soldiers. We are indeed looking at a team built to fail should they be put on a team with Naruto. Danzo spoke. Not to mention what his brother did to him in fucking up his leg, because of the one time he was nearly knocked out in a sparring match. What do you think will happen when he finds out that Naruto has one of the most powerful sets of eyes known to man? Mizuki asked the Warhawk. That is why, for Naruto's sake, we need to put him with Haruno and Uchiha, because if you put him on a team with his siblings, then I guarantee you it won't just go south. But that Naruto will either hard quit being a shinobi and we lose out on the potentially strongest soldier the village could ever see. Then there's the other alternative where he breaks bad and you can fill in the blanks from there. Mizuki further spoke, knowing that if Naruto broke bad, then it was going to be a nightmare. Yes, the idea of not only a rogue shinobi wielding the immense power of the Rinnegan, but also the potential murder of 2 of our Jinchuriki. Suffice it to say that would be a nightmare both politically and from a military standpoint. Danzo responded. Then you agree that we need to get Naruto the team he needs, rather than what Lord Forth and his wife want to put him with. Otherwise, it is going to end really ugly for everyone. Mizuki told the Warhawk. Consider your request granted, Mizuki. The very last thing Konoha needs is a disaster waiting to happen. That can be easily avoided, especially when this disaster has the power of the founder of ninjutsu at his disposal. He may not realize it, but that boy wields the power to become a calamity on legs, Danzo said to the white-haired root operative. Thank you, I really appreciate it, Mizuki responded. Of course, if this will ensure that a powerful asset remains within Konoha, then I see no reason as to why I shouldn't honor this request, Danzo said to his underling. That being said, I should also ask that once he receives training from our organization, that you be the deciding factor on whether or not he officially joins Root. You are the closest to him and as such the best judge of character for this task. Danzo further spoke in surprising Mizuki with the decision. That is a pretty hefty choice to make, boss. Are you sure that I'm the right guy for this? Mizuki questioned the Warhawk. I am positive of it. There is no one else that is qualified to undertake this task than you. Besides, if we are going to train him to bring about his full potential as an asset of the village, then it only makes sense that we make the selection of whether or not he is to be inducted into our ranks. Danzo told the white-haired Chunin. If you really think that I'm the best man for the job, then I'll do the best I can to make this work, Mizuki said to the leader of Root. Good, now then, if there is nothing else to report, then you are dismissed for the day, Danzo said as Mizuki's prolonged silence gave the answer, and soon enough was he left to his own devices. A wielder of the fabled Rinnegan within the village's wall. This is going to make things incredibly interesting in the future, and more than that, finally giving Konoha a true counter to the Nine Tails where Jiraiya, Minato and his wife will not do what is needed. Blessings truly do come in strange ways, Danzo remarked to himself at the events soon unfolding. And so with summer now beginning for our intrepid trio, wherein a whole new set of events and opportunities are to come for them, we also see that not only has Mizuki been added to the growing circle of those who now know of Naruto's Rinnegan, we also see that with it, Danzo is now informed of and setting his sights to eventually bring Naruto into the fold. Things look to become far, far more interesting for the Rinnegan wielder at hand. So with Naruto now open to a new world of ever-expanding possibilities, how things will soon unfold for him will all be told in the new installments of You'll Never Keep Me Down, A Rippling Alternative, June 9th, 996 SE, 1:45 p.m., Grass Country. It would be 1:45 in the afternoon as Naruto and Sakura were currently stalking their target in the form of Aoi Rokusho and his genin squad, who were en route to return from a C-rank mission in the Waterfall Country. All right, Naruto, are you good to go? Sakura asked her adoptive brother. Are you kidding me? I woke up ready to get things started. This is going to be great, Naruto answered back, ready to hop to it. Then let's go catch your first bodies, Sakura said as the two rushed off to stalk their targets. All the while Aoi Rokusho and his tea of genin were en route to reach the border between grass and rain country, within another 3 miles of traversing through the thick forest line. He and his team in high spirits after completing their first C-going on B-ranked mission, with those assembled chattering amongst themselves at how they not only valiantly fought off bandits but also their leaders in the form of rogue ninja that while the genin managed to take down through teamwork and assorted skills, their sensei was able to best with his majestic sword of lightning. With Aoi, as they traveled, did so in pride of having set himself art as one of the best within the jonin ranks of Amigakure, for the former Konoha shinobi could almost feel it that soon enough he would make his way to being at the top in regards to his peers. However, his thoughts were soon stopped when something wrenched his genin away from their formation. The young man of bright blue hair and silver eyes yanked away as though by some invisible force. This stopped them in their tracks, as in that same moment did they stop to take in and perceive their surroundings did the genin's head come sailing back into view, with it having been uppercut off of his shoulders and splattering into a bloody pulp across the grassy field. The genin to his left, who was a slender young woman wielding a tanto, was driven into a tree by a crimson and navy-colored blur, before the sounds of bones crunching in on themselves from rapid-fire punches that sounded more like the crack of cannon fire were heard. Which it was by the time that Aoi was able to rush over to his student to intercept, did he find himself only able to unleash the brilliant golden blade of his sword to find that his student's chest had been caved in so severely that it looked as though a herd of water buffalo given a solid pound of bath salts had tramped onto her chest. However, it was by the time he was able to turn around did he hear another pain scream erupt, as he was able to turn and see that his student was currently being impaled by a large man with blonde hair, wearing a pumpkin orange short-sleeve short with blue accents and matching navy shorts. Yet what drew his attention the most was that his hands were large electrified metal claws that had impaled his student in the stomach, lifting them into the air where they dangled helplessly. Before the aim jonin could move so much as a single muscle did what he assumed was his companion, who looked like a pink-haired oni, come rushing in to Spartan kick their head clean off their shoulders. Nice shot, Sakura, Naruto said as with a swiping motion his claws shredded the now headless corpse. Thanks. And by the way, is that a new add-on to your arsenal? They look cool as shit, Sakura said, looking at Naruto's imposing armored claws for hands that cracked with lightning. Oh yeah, I call them my lightning claws? Pretty cool, huh? Naruto said as he began transforming his hands back to their normal state. You're goddamn right, they look cool, Sakura said back as they saw Aoi charging at them before Naruto blasted him back with a very potent almighty push. Sir, we will be with you in a moment. I was talking to my sister here, Naruto told Aoi as he was sent through nearly a dozen trees. Anyways, I've been working on a few other bits of cool stuff that I'd like to get your opinion on. Naruto further spoke to the pink-haired bruiser. I would love to see some of that after we get done taking the piss out of this idiot. We do have a job to finish, so let's get this done properly, Sakura replied. Gotcha, Sakura, Naruto said as he switched to his Azura path once more. From there, Aoi was met with the approaching sight of Sakura dashing towards him like a runaway freight train and Naruto using the Azura path to quite literally rocket towards him. His feet had turned into propulsion jets to barrel towards him, with the aim shinobi lashing outwards with his sword of the Thunder God to send out a torrent of electrified energy out at the duo. In response to this, Naruto flew up and over the attack to continue his course towards Aoi, while Sakura used Raging Fire to accelerate faster than before in order to dash around the electrified attack. But before Aoi could unleash another attack from his electrified sword, did Naruto use Universal Pull to send him reeling towards him at great speeds. The sudden gravitational pull ripping him forward to Naruto, who unleashed a heavy left cross to slam his Kandham-sized fist into Aoi's jaw. The heavy blow had broken his lower jaw and sending out a handful of teeth skittering out of his mouth, before another right hook to the ribs sent him careening into the ground, where he was met with Sakura leaping into the air to deliver an Ironbreaker enhanced punch to the middle of his back. The blow being enough to stop his ascent in his tracks before he was met with her delivering a flurry of punches and elbows that began to shred not only his flak vest, but his clothing and flesh to the point her sequence ended. It looked as though he'd been pelted by a savage beast. The final blow being a triple kick to his lower back, the right side of his chest, and spinning around to deliver it to his solar plexus with enough force to have him double over to his knees, staggering from the assortment of blows that left his heavily bruised back and heavily cracked if not broken ribs. However, it was not done as Naruto came following through with a hard overhand aimed at his throat, and whilst he was able to block the attack in time, it didn't stop the follow-up uppercut aimed at his right arm from striking true. As such, Aoi was from that point on forced to defend a multi-angled assault from both Naruto and Sakura, who set a relentless pace, wherein Naruto's heavy-handed brawling style made it so that it didn't matter whether he blocked the giant's punches aimed at his body. Given that, as far as Naruto was concerned, it just meant that he would punch anywhere else, evident by his punching at his arms, shoulders, and the occasional thudding uppercut to the kidneys or bladder, that nearly brought him to his knees with each blow. All the while Sakura would pummel him with an assortment of punches, elbows, and kicks that made him feel less like he was fighting a person and more like he was fighting a coked-out honey badger from how relentlessly aggressive she came after him, with the occasional Ironbreaker-enhanced attack being mixed into where handfuls of welts were left upon his body as he struggled to defend against the taijutsu onslaught, as no body part was left unattached by the duo. With it being as he went to attack with a swift thrust of his sword, did Sakura aim a heavy stomp kick at his knee to stun him. The attack working as the moment he went to check it, did Naruto use the bladed tail of his Azura path to impale his right thigh dead center with such speed that Aoi barely registered the attack until it was too late to parry it. The result was him being rooted into the ground by the extra appendage and howling in pain as he felt it pierce clean through his femur, the extremity gushing blood from the bladed tail going through his leg, something that left Sakura able to tackle into him and grab his sword-wielding arm in order to put him into a vice grip of an armbar, wherein she went into 15% of her removal in order to make her armbar more than lethal enough to do as she planned. With it being as Aoi struggled to attempt to get Sakura off of him, would Naruto drag his tail through Aoi's right leg to further split it open, as in tandem with Sakura was he quick to nail Aoi with a brutal liver shot of a right uppercut that ruptured it on impact. The blow stunning Aoi enough that Sakura was able to finish her armbar with brutal effect, given that she not only dislocated the now ruined limb, but quite literally snapped his sword-wielding arm in half as though it were a candy bar, the offending limb now hanging limply at his side, a dangling mess of an arm that borderline was broken off at the elbow. Hence why the combination of his arm being snapped in half and his liver being ruptured being enough that Naruto and Sakura were able to deliver their own finish blows upon him, with Sakura mule kicking one of her legs through his stomach cavity and out the other side. All the while Naruto reared his fist back to deliver a brutally powerful right hook so strong that it outright decapitated Aoi on the spot, turning his head into a fine red mist on the spot that left nothing but blood, gray matter, and bone remnants to be sprayed across the clearing. "Hey, Sakura, what do you want to do now that we took care of this guy?" Naruto questioned the pink-haired bruiser. You want to set up camp, get some food going for lunch and call it a day for now? Sakura asked back. Yeah, I'm down for that, Naruto said with a shrug of his shoulders. Awesome. Just let me seal up this guy's corpse and his kick-ass sword, and I'll start getting things set up so we can make camp, Sakura told the Rinnegan wielder. I'll go and hunt us down some food. Hopefully, there's something out here I can use to make a decent enough meal, Naruto said back as he activated the Predapath to fly off and away. This went so much better than what I thought it would, were Sakura's thoughts as she got to work on sealing up the headless sundered corpse of their mark. Fire/grass country border, 9:45 p.m. 2 days later, June 11th, 996 SE. It would be a few nights later. As our duo began their journey back to Konoha, would Naruto and Sakura be sitting next to each other by the campfire eating some boar that Naruto had caught and put on a spit roast for them to eat on. Hey, Naruto, you mind if I ask you something? Sakura questioned. Sure, go right ahead, Naruto responded as he continued eating his lion's share of the boar. I just wanted to know how you're doing after everything went down today. This is the first time you've killed people, and so far you've been pretty chill about it, Sakura asked, wanting to know how he was doing in the aftermath of such things. You sure you won't judge me for what I'm about to say? Naruto asked back. Naruto, we are pretty much family. Unless it's something super weird or super messed up, I'm not going to judge you. So go right ahead and share with yours truly, Sakura replied. Alright, well, when we killed that Aoi guy and his genin, I didn't even feel a thing when I did it, and I am not trying to say this to sound like a tough guy or anything. But I am telling you right now that when we took them down and made it damn near look easy, there wasn't really anything that I felt about it. I didn't feel bad about it, I didn't feel over the top about it or ecstatic that I mauled someone, or angry at what I did. And it was weird that I didn't, Naruto told Sakura as he tore off another piece of boar to eat. It honestly felt like I was stomping on a bunch of ants. Just a bunch of miserable, insignificant ants who meant nothing. Is that fucked up for me to feel that way after killing people for the first time? Naruto further spoke in feeling strange about not feeling anything when he killed people. Look, Naruto, I am the last person to tell you how to feel after killing people. I've been doing ride-alongs where I got to help kill people since I was 13, and I felt absolutely great, Sakura responded in having loved the euphoria that came with crushing and or maiming someone. Is there a but to this that doesn't make you sound like a psychopath? Naruto asked the pink-haired bruiser. But what I can say about it is that no matter how you feel about snapping a man in half, mauling him to a bloody pulp, or just using your superpowers to do weird stuff, that as long as you aren't going out and being a dick about it, then I say do whatever the fuck you want and let no one make you feel bad about it. Because no one has the right to tell you how to feel about this other than you, Sakura told the Rinnegan wielder. I never really thought about it like that. Normally everyone makes a big deal about your first kill and whatever, but I don't really see what's so big about it. Because I was more excited to do this with you than I'd feel guilty about ripping through someone. Naruto admitted in seeing that with his first kills under his belt that it wasn't as life-changing as he thought it would be. That's because everyone blows it up to be something it isn't. Since the thing people seem to forget that sooner or later you're going to have to kill a person whether you like it or not. There is no evading that in this world and especially in what we choose to do for a living. But the fact that people make it out to be this big philosophical mass of nonsense is just annoying, Sakura said in disgust of how overblown people made the event of a first kill. We get it, you killed guy, congratulations, but whether you feel shitty about or feel like a god for having done that shit, the only thing that matters is that at the end of all of that crap, that you remember you are still you. Since it is never about the first kill you make, it's what you do after that makes it count. Sakura further spoke in regards to the whole ordeal of the first kill. I remember what you did when made yours. You celebrated with a cake. I want to say it was a fudge cake that we had, Naruto said in memory of that day. It was a pretty damn good cake too. Bottom line, Naruto, as long as you are still you at the end of the day, then it does not matter how you feel about offing people. It just matters what you do afterwards and not shit else, Sakura replied. Thanks, Sakura. I appreciate the advice. Naruto thanked his adoptive sister. Hey, it's what I'm here for. There is no one in this world who will have your back like I will, Sakura said with a grin on her face. You've got that right. Since it's just like we promised each other when we were little. You and me against the world till the end. Naruto said back as he and Sakura tore off more pieces of boar to eat. You're damn right we're in this till the end. Because my bullshit is your bullshit and your bullshit is my bullshit, Naruto. We are locked into everything until we grow old and wrinkly, and I put that on Grandpa Irio, Sakura told the Rinnegan wielder. Sakura, if there is one thing I know for certain in this world, it is that no matter how old that man gets, he will still be a top-tier menace. The man is like 90-something and yet it still feels like he could box Kakashi or Might Guy if he really wanted to. I swear that old guy is the embodiment of being built different. Naruto remarked at the long-living head of the Kure clan. That is an understatement. I know I'm great and that I'm better than most people except for Mom, Karura, Rayan, and Aunt Yakusha. But Grandpa Irio, that man is one of the rare few people I will never try my luck with, Sakura said, knowing that it would be a death sentence to try and press Irio Kure on his worst day. Same here, Sakura. Even with my new eyes, you will never catch me disrespecting the old man. I like being able to pee correctly way too much to make that man angry. Naruto replied, knowing that the elder clan head could fold him in half and hardly break a sweat. You and me both. Anyways, other than you doing okay after your first kill and Gramps being terrifying, I also wanted to ask how your leg is holding up. You haven't had any problems while we've been out here, have you? Sakura asked the Rinnegan wielder. Other than a few small flare-ups here and there, it hasn't been all that bad. It's just mostly there at this point, Naruto told her regarding his scarred over leg. Phew, that's a relief. The last thing I need is for you to start falling apart on me because you didn't say something about it. I need my brother to be okay. So it's something is wrong with you. Then open up your mouth so I can okay. Sakura said back with an undertone of sisterly concern in her voice. Hey, my leg pains might be a bitch and a half to deal with, but it isn't anything I can't handle, Naruto assured her while lightly tapping on his leg brace. I know you're tough, but it doesn't mean I can't worry about you, Sakura said. I get it, but as always I'll be just fine. I'm too tough for my own good, you know, Naruto replied with a reassuring smile. Yeah, you really are sometimes, but that's what I love about you. Anyways, I'm gonna finish eating and then take watch, Sakura said as she continued eating. Gotcha. I'll clean up once we finish this last bit of boar, Naruto replied as the two continued eating over the campfire. 3 days later, Konoha, Haruno household, June 14th, 996 SE, 2:10 p.m. In the days to follow would Naruto and Sakura soon return to Konoha, and as such were currently having lunch with Mabuki in the aftermath of their first successful assassination together. Thanks again for making lunch, Mom. I don't know how you and Naruto do it, but man is stuff great, Sakura said to her mother. It helps when we have a personal chef living under our roof. If he wasn't trying to be a shinobi, then this great young man would make a killing having his own restaurant. Mabuki spoke as everyone ate their chili. Hey, I just really love making a good meal, and I will not settle for anything less. It is the main reason why I do meal prep for Sakura and for you. I can't really have my bonus mom slumming it out with basic bitch rations, Naruto replied, in having taken to doing meal preps for everyone in the Haruno household. And I appreciate it. You should see my teammates when I have to do missions. They almost beg me to share what you make with them. I've almost had a handful of them want to pay me to get some, Mabuki told the hulking blonde. Wait a minute. People are that gung-ho about my cooking? Naruto asked back. Trust me, you would be surprised how good your cooking is. They don't know where I get it from. I just tell them tough shit because there is no way I'm trading what you make over their bullshit, Mabuki answered back. Ha, well don't I feel special, Naruto said, in perking up quite a bit over. You have a God-given talent when it comes to cooking, Naruto. It being a shinobi doesn't pan out for you, or you just decide it isn't for you. Then I would definitely suggest setting aside some money to open up your own food stall, a restaurant, or anything else that you might want to do. All I know is that it would be a damn shame for you not to take your gift and do something amazing with it, Mabuki told the Rinnegan wielder. Mom is right, you know. Seriously, Naruto, you are probably just as good if not as good as a Akimichi when it comes to making killer food. I will say it with my whole chest that you should definitely think about it after graduation. Sakura added in agreement with her mother. Wherein both Harunos could see it clear as day that Naruto, despite being terrifying in the realm of taijutsu and combat adaptivity, that his skills with cooking were not only equivalent to an Akimichi, but probably closer to surpassing some of their best at such an early age. Which was the exact reason why Mabuki, along with the Uchiha and some of her own clansmen, were some of Naruto's biggest supporters when it came to embracing his craft as an incredibly skilled cook. That was in the best descriptor, terrifyingly prodigious, with a standard of perfectionism that matched the fire daimyo. I just might to be honest with you guys, because it never hurts to have a fallback option just in case. Especially if I get shafted and wind up with the living cancer that is my siblings. Naruto said. How you, the three of you, are related, I will never know. Especially when you guys were all born at the same time. Sakura wondered as to how her adoptive brother was related to the nightmares in question. You are asking the wrong person, Sakura. Even I don't know how I got shafted into being stuck with a violent idiot who can't take a loss to where he'll throw a tantrum at best and at worst. Well, we all know how that went. Naruto said, tapping his leg brace encased left leg. Then the other one is someone who actively tries make me feel like crap, crush my dreams, or just make sure that I can never be above her or the other idiot. All because I'm not important enough to be in the shadow of the next Hokage. The fact that she thinks she always knows better than me is insufferable all on its own. Naruto further spoke in feeling nothing but contempt and disgust for either one of them. Honestly, it is a good thing you came up with that would clone idea with Shizune and Yujiro, so we could get you out of there. How Jiraiya allows them to do whatever they want, and fool Kushina and Minato into thinking it is a good idea, I will never know. Mabuki replied in disgust of the Toad Sage and a combination of wrath and disappointment towards Minato and Kushina. We are talking about the same person who somehow manages to survive getting his butt kicked by Granny and Grandpa Dan folding this man into a pretzel. Hell, at this point Grandpa Dan pretty much considers it on-site against him. Naruto spoke knowing that Dan Kato had its on-site levels of hating on Jiraiya. How can I forget about that day? I swear it almost feels like I was high with Yakusha again. It's so funny that every time we see Tsunade's husband catch even a whiff of Jiraiya around, and he just starts punishing that man no matter where he is. I swear it's like watching one of the Inuzuka's dogs chase down a deer that has stakes wrapped around their necks. Mabuki replied in almost wanting to laugh at the level of relentlessness that Dan Kato put into beating Jiraiya to a pulp. At this point, I am surprised they don't have the Uchiha on standby just in case. With how much Lord Jiraiya loves to play fuck around and find out with almost every female in the village. I am surprised he doesn't have his own security detail. Mabuki added. Mom, I'm pretty sure that even if Lord Fourth ordered them to that they wouldn't do it. With how many of their girlfriends, sisters, moms, wives, you name it that he's peeped on over the years. Do you really think that anyone from Sasuke's clan would go out of their way to help him, after how many bridges he's burned? Sakura asked her mother in knowing how much the Uchiha actively hated the Toad Sage. That is a good point, honey. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Itachi and Fugaku both had a on-site level of wanting to beat his ass. After he's peeped on both Izumi and Makoto and even put their likeness in his books. It is a miracle that he is still breathing and not through a tube. Mabuki said knowing full well that those two Uchiha in particular had a bone to pick with the Toad Sage for his perverse antics. You've got that right, honestly it is only because Itachi has his head on straight and rarely gets pissed that he hasn't done it. As for Sasuke's dad, I can't tell if he's plotting on that man's downfall or he's just letting the fact that he can do it and no one can stop him hang in the air. Sakura said back as she continued eating alongside the massive blonde. Probably both of those things, to be honest. If there is one thing I know about Sasuke's dad, it is that he is on the short list of people that are built different. The man has to be if he was chosen to be Hokage and one of the daimyo's fangs. Naruto spoke in regards to the former Hokage candidate and recently retired member of the daimyo's exterminators. Those were the days. Honestly, Fugaku still has it in him. The fact that the only reason he settles for being a clan head nowadays is because he didn't like being off a few steps while raising Sasuke and Itachi. Could have fooled me when the man was able to go toe-to-toe against the Four Tails Jinchuriki at full power and the Tsuchikige's old kid. Mabuki replied in regards to how Wicked Eyes Fugaku was to this day one of the deadliest men alive as a former member of the Fangs of the Daimyo. Well, look at this was. If Sasuke takes after his old man, he might just get that position one day. Naruto remarked, knowing that if Sasuke was anything like his father, he'd be a shoo-in for the position. I'm sure that all of you are going to do something great. Between Sakura having the potential to be on par with Rain at the rate she's going, and you being stronger and tougher than most of our clansmen. If anything, I don't think most Uzumaki have your level of strength. Better yet, even Kushina wasn't as weirdly strong as you are now. Mabuki said back in regards to Naruto. Despite being half Uzumaki, was insanely physically strong. It helps when you're a few months out from being 18 and look like you could snap someone's spine in half. My great-grandparents must have gotten down and dirty with a giant for me to end up how I am. Naruto spoke with a chuckle at how at the age of 17 he was 6'5" and built like Black Bear. They must have done something back then, because it is still weird how out of everyone in Naruto's family, that he shakes out looking bigger than everyone else. Because I'm not gonna lie, Naruto, you look like you could snap the fourth Hokage in half like a toothpick. Sakura remarked at her adoptive brother being so much of a overwhelmingly physical presence. Then it is a good thing I'm chill most of the time. Otherwise, it would be a very different story with how I treat people. Naruto said. You got that right? But other than you being the world's largest chef, let's have 3 cheers for my not-so-little brother doing awesome on his first assassination run with me. Sakura spoke in good spirits for what she and Naruto accomplished. I can toast to that, Mabuki said back. And it only gets better from here. I can feel it, Naruto said as they all raised their glasses and continued on about their day. However, as those within the Haruno household would continue in good cheer over the accomplishment of what had transpired days ago, on the other side of the village would Minato visit with Fugaku, the man who had remained as not only one of his closest friends but a constant confidant that he knew he could trust in without question, as well as the person who acted as his shadow Hokage when things became at their most dire. Fugaku, do you mind if I ask you a question? Minato asked the leader of the Uchiha clan. Of course you can, Minato. We have been friends for over 15 years at this point. I almost feel insulted that you need to ask me of anything. Bar that of what concerns my clan, of course. Fugaku answered back. How do you do it? How have you managed to raise Sasuke and Itachi and almost make it look easy? It almost feels insane sometimes that you can make being a single parent look like a cakewalk, and yet Kushina and I feel like we're floundering half the time. Minato asked the Uchiha clan head. Where is this coming from? I thought that things were going well in the household of the future saviors to be of the village and much more so the world. Fugaku asked back. It is just that with everything going on from training the twins to upkeeping the village and my duties as a father and Hokage, that I have been trying to figure out through it all how to make more time for Naruto. I know I haven't been there as much as I would like for my son, and believe me, I feel horrible that we have all but phased him out of the family. However, every time I try to figure out a way to make up for it, to account for more time with him so that he knows that I want to be there for him, that I want to be a presence in his life, I continue to come up short. Minato lamented to his oldest friend in regards to the state of things with his eldest son. And you think I have the magical end-all-be-all answer to fixing things with Naruto? You do know that while I am exceptional as a shinobi, and while not to boast someone who has done a fine job as a single father, that I am not a miracle worker, I cannot magically make a way for you to spend more time with your son, Fugaku told the fourth Hokage. I know, it's just that I have been trying to figure out something, anything to show him that I am there for him when he needs it. But between training twin Jinchuriki, the subjects of a prophecy that are meant to help end this cycle of violence we live in once and for all, plus making sure they are decent shinobi and contributing members of the village, I find myself almost constantly drowning in the responsibilities of trying to be a good father to my family, as well as being a Hokage that looks to maintain and upkeep the strength of their village. Minato responded as the light in his eyes almost seemed to dim as the weight of what he was trying to hold seemed to age him by 12 years. So what I am asking of you as a friend and a fellow father is simply advice on how to be a good father to a son they have failed. Minato further spoke. The only advice that I can give to you is not something that is easy to swallow, much less take to heart, Fugaku told his blonde counterpart. At this point, I will take anything to have a chance at making things marginally better with Naruto. Something is better than nothing as far as I am concerned, Minato replied. What I will tell you now is that the window to be a parent to Naruto has closed. The boy is going to be 18 in a few months, with how much you and Kushina both have missed out on so many key points in his growth. I doubt there is much in the way of being a father you can do for him now. That portion of his life has closed off, as much as I hate to say this to you," Fugaku said with the bluntness of a sword slicing through your ribcage. "I had figured as much. I was holding out hope that I could make some peace with him as his father. But at the end of it, I do have to be realistic in what can and cannot do as a father," Minato responded, although nonplussed about it. "However, that does not mean you cannot be for him should he need it. What you have to realize is that as a young man, he will need help in growing further in the journey of becoming a better man overall. It is a responsibility that I have had to learn when raising Itachi and doubly so with Sasuke, since Mikoto died all those years ago, rest her wonderful soul. The point being that even though you may not be able to be a father to Naruto, now that he is going to be a man soon enough, that what you can be is someone he can look to for counsel. You are still the Hokage and a respected shinobi of the village, and by being someone he can look to in that aspect, you may find something there for him yet," Fugaku told his longtime friend in realizing that it was a bitter pill to swallow but one that needed to be given even still. "It is not an easy thing to hear, I know. However, as someone who has managed to raise 2 sons of his own, that the best thing you can do is be what they need most. Someone who they can respect, come to when they are in need of aid, and someone who can advise them on what it takes to be a man. There is no one true guide to being a father, Minato," Fugaku added as Minato sighed in mental exhaustion. "I hate that this is what it has to be. I really hate it. However, I can't say that I disagree with what it is that you have to say, especially when you have managed to kill it as a father to both your boys," Minato said with a light bit of laughter. "Thank you for the kind words, my friend. As I do not know how I make being a father look so easy, even when it is most certainly not, and most often it leaves me with more gray hairs to count than I would like to admit. However, I will say that fatherhood is never easy, and that even though you have failed with what you have wanted to create with Naruto as his father, that does not mean that you are a horrible one. You have tried as hard as possible to make it work, even more so when you were having to deal with the fallout of a catastrophe that nearly ruined our village. So take it from me as a friend who knows of the burdens of fatherhood, that you have done your best, but even still that comes with knowing it comes at a cost," Fugaku replied in knowing that any of what was said could not be sugar-coated whatsoever. "That cost just so happens to be a relationship with my eldest. At least he has turned out okay, despite my failings as his father. At least I hope that he has," Minato said with a dourness heavy in his voice. "That is something you will have to see for yourself when time permits it, my friend," Fugaku said, patting him on the back. "In the meantime, let us get lunch together. There are much more lighter topics to discuss than this, especially ones that will not have you going mad," Fugaku further spoke to his blonde counterpart. "That would be nice, Fugaku. I have a place in mind that we go to. It shouldn't take too long to reach," Minato said as they began to make their way. "If it is Ichiraku, I am kicking in the shins," Fugaku told him. "Oh, come on. I am not that predictable, am I?" Minato responded with a bashful laugh. "That remains to be seen, Namikaze," Fugaku said as the two headed off for lunch. The next day, 10 miles away from Konoha, 7:55 p.m., June 15th, 996 SE. On the next day in question, as Naruto was currently working on a new technique with his Deva Path and further trying to mess with the gravity-based powers of it, given that he wanted to do something that took advantage of the attraction-based parts of it, which had varying results. "I don't get what I'm doing wrong here. I should be able to get this nailed no problem. But for some odd reason it feels like something is missing," Naruto sighed, looking at the gouges in the earth from his experiments with the Deva Path's powers. "You are toying around with the powers of gravity itself, Naruto. Creating whatever it is you are attempting isn't going to be so simple," Sasuke told the Rinnegan wielder. "If anything, you should be glad that what you are attempting hasn't created more disastrous results. Otherwise, the decimation of the surrounding wildlife would be the least of your concerns," Sasuke added, in seeing nothing but earth and rubble that looked as though it had been imploded and ripped away. "Well, I already have the hollow point, which is just the repulsing parts of what I can do put into projectile form. So why not make the attraction bits into something I can launch to clear out rooms and do some crowd control too?" Naruto spoke in regards to the creation of one of his newest techniques as a companion piece to the almighty push, hollow point. Understand that I commend you for doing what you are attempting to. The power of both your hollow point and this new technique you are creating is nothing short of incredible. Sasuke said in compliments of Naruto's creativity in regarding his jujitsu thus far. Why do I feel like there's a but to all of this? There's never a moment where you're nice unless it comes without criticizing what I can do. Naruto asked the swordsman. But you have to remember that it isn't just about overwhelming force with the powers you have. It also means you have to wield it with precision as well, otherwise everything you are doing will be for nothing. That training to master the powers of your eyes will be for absolutely nothing, if you do not exercise precision and a great deal of discipline over all aspects of it. Sasuke answered back in refusal to sugarcoat anything for his friend. I know, Sasuke. I just want to be awesome with my new powers and show that I am worth being a soldier of the village. Especially now that I have a fighting chance to make my case. Naruto said in wanting more than anything to show that he was worth taking a chance on. And I understand that, Naruto. You are incredibly capable, more than what you give yourself credit for. However, you have to exercise discipline with how you use these powers of yours. One moment of recklessness and something horrible could happen to our future sensei, Sakura or myself, if you are not careful. Sasuke replied as he put a hand of understanding on Naruto's shoulder. You know that my criticisms come from wanting you to be better. Because I know that you are more than capable of being something incredible, you more than have that capability. All you need to do is put forth the effort to do so and you will be phenomenal. I just simply know this to be true. If anything, if you put anywhere near the level of dedication you put towards your craft, then you would outclass the likes of Kakashi Hatake and Might Guy by a wide margin. Sasuke further spoke, his voice, while stern as it always was, had the undercurrent of encouragement within. It isn't as easy as you think, Sasuke. It's just that fighting is one thing and I work my ass off to be good at it. But when it comes to cooking, I can't really explain it, but when I'm cooking and making a good meal for myself or anyone for that matter, the world just seems to make sense to me. Everything just comes together so well that before I know it, I can make a 3-course meal with one hand tied behind my back, and it would make anything from yakiniku Q look like garbage. Naruto responded. Wherein Naruto could best describe cooking to him as the one place where everything simply made sense, as it was almost as though he could lose himself into a flow state of bringing ingredients together to create food that would leave a person unable to even stand from it being both filling and just tasting that good. It was to him the one place where he could lock in, and know that it wasn't just an escape where he felt at his utmost safest, but it was also the place where he could hold himself to a standard that most would consider maddening and yet still love what he could get out of it. That is also a fair point to make, and while I know that cooking is important to you, in fact, it being one of the few things that you are a prodigy tenfold at, I also know that if you apply yourself with even half the focus you give to it, and instill into your training and the discipline of mastering whatever you want to create, then you will be nothing short of unstoppable. I guarantee that much. Sasuke said, knowing full well that his giant of a friend had it in him. Do you actually think I can be that awesome? Naruto asked the Uchiha, who smirked. I do not think that you can. I know that you can. I will stake my swords on it that you can be something beyond the third Hokage, beyond the man who beat the legendary Sannin, and even rival the first Hokage. I believe in you being the best that you can be and more, Naruto. All that I ask is that you put forth the effort that I know you can. Sasuke answered back, his smirk curving into a modest smile of encouragement and goading that was tempered by stern confidence in his friend. All right, Sasuke. I will dig in deep and give it another 160% for you, best buddy. Naruto promised the Uchiha. Good. I will expect nothing less from you from this point forward. Now then, let us do another hour of you attempting to perfect this technique of yours. Then an hour of putting that other aspect of yours to the test. I wish to improve my defensive skills, and there is nothing like a live combat situation to make it worthwhile. Sasuke said to a Naruto who held a renewed sense of determination in himself. I heard you loud and clear. Here we go again. Universal pull. Gluttonous singularity. Naruto shouted as he began charging up said attack that took the form of a blackish-crimson void of intense gravity. That's it, Naruto. All the way, we are going to become legends soon enough. All that is needed to make it happen is to push ourselves beyond every limit conceivable to see ourselves fully realized. And I will not let you, Sakura, or myself, settle for anything less than greatness. were Sasuke's ambitious thoughts as he sent a good portion of the night training alongside his friend. And so with Naruto and Sakura completing their first full-blown assassination to great effect, which in turn marks Naruto's first ever kill, we also see the Rinnegan wielder with Sasuke's encouragement dedicate himself even further to improving himself to being something truly great in the world around him. However, how shall this take shape as Naruto seeks to show himself as something worthwhile to the eyes of a very much vicious world? Well, stay tuned and find out in the all-new installments of You'll Never Keep Down, A Rippling Alternative, June 25th, 996 S. 4:57 p.m. Konoha, Forest of Death. It would be nearing 5 o'clock as our intrepid trio had finished a combination of combat training against the creatures residing in the Forest of Death and physical training to improve their overall strength and endurance, that had left the three of them red-faced, sweat-covered, and semi-exhausted from the physical exertions. You really weren't kidding. When you said that you were kicking it in gear, Naruto, shit, even I'm winded right now, Sakura said as Sasuke collapsed onto his butt from non-stop physical exertion for nearly 5 hours straight. Hey, it is thanks to Sasuke that something just clicked in me. That's why, from here on out, I am tripling down on making myself into something better, Naruto told the pink-haired assassin. I don't know what you said to Naruto, but whatever it was, it must have been something devious to make him go from 0 to 100. Sakura said back after taking a few moments to compose herself. All three of us want to be the greatest to ever do it as shinobi. Therefore, I told him what he needed to hear to make that happen. Nothing more and nothing less than that, Sasuke said after having a few moments to catch his breath. Whatever it was, I'm all here for. If we keep things going at this pace, then we can pretty much bully whoever the poor sap is that turns out to be our sensei, Sakura said back. I almost want it to be Kakashi, just so we can make him constantly know he isn't all that. As much as I'm okay with him, I also don't really mind making him regret life for funnies, Naruto said with a dark grin on his face at the thought. That sounds like a ton of fun to mess with the guy who's mastered 1,000 jutsu. I wonder how long it would take to break his bones at my max. Okay, now that really sounds like a good time. Sakura spoke in agreement with a devious chortle at tormenting the Cyclopean Jonin through training. While I would not get ahead ourselves, given that he is still an elite shinobi, I won't lie when I say that using him as a test dummy for new kenjutsu techniques sounds like so much fun, especially when we can say it is under the banner of teamwork exercises. From what Obito has informed me, suckering him into anything through the guise of improving our teamwork would work wonders in making him suffer for our amusement. How we would go about doing so is another matter altogether, Sasuke said to both his companions with a malevolent smirk of agreement. Then I think we can all agree that regardless of who we get as a sensei, that when we get tested by them, that we have to pop off and show them what we got. Otherwise, being on a squad together just won't feel right, Naruto told his friends in regards to what was an absolute must when they became genin. Agreed/preach, Naruto, were the responses of his two friends. Great. Now let's go get something to eat. I'm starving, Naruto said to his friends. From there, the dynamic trio found themselves going to Ichiraka Ramen, where they decided to get dinner for the day and get their strength back up, with the trio as per usual after a highly intensive training session. Enjoyed the fellowship they had come to grow between each other over the years, with the atmosphere of good cheer being present to the point that it bordered on tangible, as they enjoyed their respective meals together and chatted on the topic of all the adventures they would soon have with each other once they became shinobi. Wherein, as they finished their meals, would Mizuki soon visit upon them, and after giving him their greetings and seeing how they have been so far over the summer, did he eventually ask for Naruto to come with him for a few minutes to discuss something important. Wherein the rude operative, after getting the go-ahead from the Rinnegan wielder, took him off to the side and began to tell him of how his boss had agreed to help him learn and further unlock the true capabilities of his jujitsu, something that had the hulking blonde incredibly excited to hear. Wait a minute, you actually found someone who can help me get even better with my eyes? Naruto asked his instructor. Yeah, I told him in confidence about what your eyes were, and he said that as long as you're good for it, then he'll help make sure you get training to master whatever they're capable of. Plus, just getting training in general to get yourself up there as a powerhouse in waiting. Mizuki answered back to an ecstatic Naruto. This is awesome. I'm going to level up so hard with your help, Naruto said, absolutely thrilled to gain training on mastering his Rinnegan. I'm going to take that as a yes, That you're on board for what my boss is offering then? Mizuki asked with a bemused smile. You bet your ass I am. This is gonna be great. Oh, I've got so much cool stuff in the works. I hope he's ready for some pretty freaky stuff that I've been working on with Sasuke and Sakura. Because I've been going nuts these past few months and I have so much I can do right now. Naruto answered back, his mind practically racing with all the new techniques and variations he could further make with his Rinnegan with more assistance. Awesome. I will tell him as soon as possible that you accepted. Trust me when I say that you won't regret this, Naruto. I put it on everything with Anko right now that we're gonna make you damn near unstoppable. Mizuki promised his student. Hey, I don't doubt that it for a moment. You have been in my corner for the longest, Mizuki-sensei, so I know I can count on you. Naruto said with a grin in knowing he could always trust in the white-haired Chunin. I always have your back, Naruto. You're a good kid and it would be a damn shame to not see you get a win at life. So whatever you need to make that happen, I will do it in a heartbeat. Mizuki told the Rinnegan wielder. Thanks, it means a lot. By the way, how have things been between you and Anko? Naruto asked in regards to Mizuki and his main squeeze. It has been going awesome lately. We went out for another date night at her favorite dango place, had a small camping trip over the weekend, and she got your boy a pimp ring as an anniversary present. Mizuki said as he raised up his right hand to reveal a brass ring with a large ruby inlaid into it. That is a dope pimp ring, Mizuki-sensei, was the only response he could bring to the cool-looking ring. I know, right? It looks so cool. I don't know how or why she decided to hook up with me, but man, am I not going to question it. Mizuki said, happy to have her as his significant other. Good for you, sensei. I'm happy for you winning at life. Naruto said back, proud to see that his sensei had love in his life. One of these days we'll have to go looking around to get you somebody. Because I can't not have my favorite student going stag for the rest of his life. Not when I know that you're a pretty good guy, and shame on anyone for thinking lesser of you. Mizuki spoke in wanting to make sure that Naruto could get as many wins in his life as possible. Maybe later. Right now I'm focused on just being the best version of myself and nothing further. Naruto said back in just being laser-focused on growing stronger and indulging in his love of cooking. Fair point, but I won't keep you too much longer. So how about we get you set up with meeting my boss for next week? That sound good to you? Mizuki asked the hulking blonde. Yeah, that sounds great to me, Naruto said back. Awesome. Anyways, I will let you get back to it with your friends. Catch ya later, Naruto. Mizuki said as he and Naruto fist bumped each other. Bitchin', I am gonna level up so hard that it isn't going to be funny by the time graduation day comes. Naruto said to himself with the inferno of his determination now blazing with enough force that it could melt entire cities. I can't explain why, but that kid is gonna be something incredible one of these days. I just hope that I can live long enough to see that happen, were Mizuki's thoughts as the two went their separate ways. 4 days later, June 29th, 996 S.E. Konoha, 1:15 p.m. All the while in the days to follow would Sasuke, after having managed to find the legendary swordsmaster Korone Senju, had approached her with the rather bold request to become her student and apprentice under her. So much so was the force of his conviction to be her student that he outright swore that if she did so, that he would one day surpass her and make his skill with a blade something to be feared in all its glory. Out of all the people to request me to teach them in the way of the sword, you have some brass balls to say that if I take you on, that you will surpass me and make even Madara Uchiha look like a novice. Korone spoke to the aspiring swordsman. I know my worth, I know that I have the talent and the skill to back my words, and I know more than anything that I can back my skills with a blade to make it happen. More than anything, I know for a fact that if you allow me to prove my worth to you as a student, then I can do all of what I promised and more, Sasuke replied. All that I want is to not only show my worth as a future swordsmaster of the village, it is also to show that I can and will be a great student under your tutelage. There is no one else in the village that I can think of that can help me reach my utmost potential. So I come to you asking you to give me a chance to show I am worth the effort. Sasuke further spoke with a resolve in his voice that could crush diamonds to dust. Alright, I will see what you've got to make it worth my while. We're gonna go to training ground 8 and I'm gonna see if you have what it takes. Korone replied with a scrutinizing gaze. From there on he followed the Senju in question to the chosen training ground, wherein once they reached it did she create a shadow clone that drew forth a Nodachi to wield, with Korone telling the Uchiha that he had 15 minutes to last against her shadow clone. If he could not survive against it for the set 15 minutes, then he could, in her own words, kick rocks and take his simple ass somewhere else. With Sasuke knowing this was his one and only chance to gain the apprenticeship he desired, he decided to pull out all the stops from the jump. With him not only activating his Sharingan despite it being incomplete, but also going into his three-sword style where he put his Chikudo in his mouth, his Okatana in his left hand, and his Tachi in his right. All three blades crossed in a high guard stance ready to strike. The very moment that Korone called it to begin did the world erupt into a ferocious clash of blades, with Sasuke having to put his Sharingan to work and immediately put it to its limits against the almost unhinged level of aggression that Korone's shadow clone heaped upon him. For every overhand cleave, bisecting swipe and flurry of whirlwind slashes aimed at him came at him with such an unyielding level of ferocity behind them, that it took everything he had to keep his composure and not flail and drown under the assault coming at him at what felt like full bore. Wherein all three of his blades were working overtime in concert with one another to make what could only be described as a barrier of blades, that made sure that despite the whirlwind offensive that came at him with unhinged aggression, that they worked in unison to make sure that nothing pierced through his defense. With his defense and any counters that were wielded with a combination of airtight blade work, disturbingly effective parries that were only augmented by the precognition granted by his Sharingan, and lightning-quick shunt blocks, with spiteful counterattacks that were launched with such speed and precision that they would cripple a lesser Jonin. As such, what followed could only be described as both a storm of clashing blades and a viciously paced exchange of unyielding defense meeting a hyper-violent offensive, where despite Korone's shadow clone pressing the advantage of never once stopping its stream of brutal aggression against Sasuke. So much so was its dedication to keeping its cadence of whirlwind strikes and bisecting cleaves to the point where it looked as though said clone were trying to brutally murder him as quickly and bloody-handed as possible. That throughout it all Sasuke, despite sweating bullets and his mind having to work overtime in order to calculate the angle of which every swing came from, his defending against it, the rapid-fire recognition, the patterns of the sequences, and subsequent unleashing of counters to pierce through her offensive, that never once did he break his composure. Wherein Korone proper watched closely with every movement Sasuke made like a hawk, wherein she saw that no matter the level of unyielding pressure and aggression levied against him, with the force of a roaring hurricane, that he never cracked or showed so much as a single hint that he was floundering. That instead of him showing a modicum of panic, that he simply continued to readjust and work to not copy the clone's movements but analyze the patterns of it, and see what would be the most surgical way he could find to dissect and slice it ribbons. Therefore the 15 minutes of Sasuke using his immense speed, prodigious level of blade work, analytical mind, and stalwart defense against Korone's shadow clone would the Senju soon call for time and dispel the shadow clone to give her verdict to the Uchiha. Sasuke, despite being red-faced, his body marked by small patterns of dark purple bruises across his arms and shoulders from parrying, blocking, and deflecting the avalanche's worth of attacks slamming onto him for 15 consecutive minutes, stood nonetheless stone-faced as though nothing had happened at all. I am going to keep it simple with you. You are good, and by far a generational talent with the blade. I didn't think I would see anyone use three-sword style here in Konoha. Where did you get the idea to use that of all things? Korone asked Sasuke, who began sheathing his swords. I felt that it would be an incredibly useful style of fighting to have in my repertoire, if you will. Be it fighting with two swords or even wielding one, I want to be prepared to fight my enemies with any manner of blades at my disposal. Therefore, I looked to using three-sword style because it was the best way to make sure that my offense and defensive capabilities could be at their maximum potential, without sacrificing anything to make it viable. Sasuke answered back. I will give you credit where it is due for being that good with it. In fact, you are a lot better than most who take up kenjutsu just because they want to look flashy with a sword and say they can hack it. Korone spoke in acknowledgement of Sasuke's talents at swordsmanship. Thank you for the praise, Korone-sensei, Sasuke said back. That being said, you held out against my shadow clone as promised. So as a woman of my word and someone who can see that there is some promise of what you were going on about, I will take you on as my student. Korone told Sasuke, who breathed a sigh of relief. This doesn't mean you get to slack off or anything, Uchiha. Understand that from here on out, I am going to make sure that you live up to all that hype you were putting out about becoming some unstoppable swordsman under me. From this point forward, I am going to train you until your bones feel like tungsten every time you move a blade, Your body aches as though you were curb-stomped by a supersized Akimichi, and your swords feel like they are made of solid concrete. Because to make sure that you live up to what you want as my student, I am going to rip out every last drop of talent and potential from your arteries and drive until you can't take it. You want to be one of the greatest to ever do it as a swordsman, fine. I will see to it this happens, and I will make sure your skills with a sword are nothing short of a living nightmare for all that cross you. Korone further spoke, her reddish-brown eyes staring down at Sasuke with the promise of, "You are going to be made a living weapon, even if I had to break every bone in your body to do it. I do not care what you do to me. All that I ask is that under you I become one of the greatest swordsmen in the history of the village. So do whatever you must to make it so. I am ready," was Sasuke's sole response, in being more than ready for whatever she could put him through. "I want you to keep that same energy while we train, because I will make a legend of you yet. So be prepared for any and everything. We are going to be getting to work, and soon. So meet me at Training Ground 10 at 9:30 in the morning, and we will get started on your training," Korone said to the aspiring swordsman. "You have my word that I will not be late to training," Sasuke replied. "I will expect nothing less from you, but until that time, rest up. You are going to need the energy for what I will put you through tomorrow," Korone said back. "Now then, if you don't mind, I have to get going. I promised my mother that we would go gambling in an hour, and I refuse to be late. That woman needs someone to make sure she doesn't screw up at blackjack." Korone spoke before heading off to meet up with her mother to partake in many of Konoha's gambling halls. "At the very least, my limits as a swordsman will be shattered. Then from there no one and nothing will supersede me as a future legendary swordsman of the Hidden Leaf. This is going to be spectacular," were Sasuke's thoughts as the young Uchiha couldn't help but feel a sense of rising joy bloom in his heart. 2 weeks later, Otogakure, 2:24 p.m., July 14th, 996 SE. In the weeks to follow Sasuke's apprenticeship, with things in their focus shift over to Orochimaru, who had successfully transferred his consciousness into their body, and while the Serpent Sannin felt far stronger than they ever had in their life, they also were taking time to acclimate to the overflow and sheer power they now had. So much so that even now every movement made felt as though they could shatter mountains with a momentary lapse in judgment, should they not be careful. "How are you doing, Lord Orochimaru? I take it that everything is going well with your new body?" Kabuto asked of the still recovering Serpent Sannin. "Yes, it is. The strength of this new form of mine is simply extraordinary. Not even in my younger years did I feel this incredible. The level of power that I feel dwarfs Hiruzen-sensei at his peak, Jiraiya's fleeting mastery of the sage arts, and even that pretender that leads the Akatsuki. To put it simply, I feel absolutely euphoric," was the response of the still bandaged Sannin, who felt overjoyed over the immensity of the power their new vessel held. "That is excellent news to hear, although I would still take it easy, despite your being in astonishingly great shape, and in fact the transference process went far better than anticipated. I still suggest holding off on doing anything too intensive with your new body, at least until you have completely worked out any hidden kinks that any of us could have missed," Kabuto told the Sannin in question, who was still getting used to the new ways in which their body felt. "Fair enough. While I would love to test the new limits of what I am now capable of, I will take your advice and extend my recovery time beyond what I initially desired. Even though my healing rate has no doubt skyrocketed, it is better safe than sorry to ensure that I am in peak condition for what comes forward," Orochimaru said as they continued to stretch themselves out in what was a no doubt alien sensation in their new oddly heavier body. "Thank you, my lord. Now then, while you are recovering, is there anything that you wish to have done?" Kabuto questioned. "Yes, actually. One of the first things to do is to not only continue with our plans for the Sound 5, given that they are in need of a facelift, I also want the operation to help cure Kimimaro of his illness to go forward as scheduled. Now that we know how to nullify his affliction for good and are capable of making the proper improvements, we can proceed with the surgery as planned," Orochimaru answered back. "Are you sure about this? While he is one of our most resilient soldiers yet and someone that I have no qualms operating on, I do have to ask if the surgery as intended will affect him negatively, given that the modifications to amplify him as needed are rather extensive. In fact, he may become less human going forward if all is successful." Kabuto questioned in regards to the fact that said surgery would make the leader of the Sound Five a much more monstrous individual. I am positive of it. I owe it to him for being unflinchingly loyal to me all these years. Never once has he failed in what I have asked. He has remained compliant to my requests, and has worked the hardest out of the Sound Five despite his handicap. Therefore, I owe it to him to repay his efforts. Orochimaru responded regarding the leader of his personal guard, wherein Orochimaru saw it as not only appropriate but as the only course of action to not only cure Kimimaro of his illness, but improve him to where he could be a far more lethal weapon of his will as the only thing to do for him. With the Serpent Sannin knowing full well that Kimimaro deserved nothing less than to be augmented into becoming the greatest version of himself possible, for being what they considered as the embodiment of duty incarnate and a weapon with an inhuman capacity for carnage befitting his lineage. Understood. I will see to it that everything is made ready by the end of the week, Kabuto said back. Good. Now then, the next line of business is continuing the assimilation of the Mist refugees into our ranks. With the plan to legitimize things as the official shinobi village, we will need to accelerate things further, especially in regards to selecting who will be a part of the Fangs of the Hidden Sound. After all, if Ozai has them, then it only stands to reason that I must have my own as well. Orochimaru spoke. Any candidates in mind to be a part of it? Kabuto questioned. There are a few that I have in mind, yes, with Kidamaru, Jirobo, and Kimimaro being my primary selections, given their respective strengths. However, they are not my only selections thus far, Orochimaru informed his right hand. Who do you have in mind? Kabuto questioned. There is one that wields the storm release Kekii Genkai, one that has a particularly fascinating corrosive and acid-based one, which will prove useful for further testing. One of which is a Uzumaki that is highly skilled in the use of polearms, and a wielder of swift release. Then last but not least a steel release user that I am particularly fascinated with, Orochimaru told the silver-haired medic. They must be an exceptional case to catch your undivided attention. It is so rare that so many are able to capture your full attention, Kabuto said. To put it simply, they are far closer to me than what you might think. In fact, I was surprised myself when I found how tied they are to my past affiliations with Konoha, Orochimaru replied regarding the wielder of the steel release. Really? And how closely are they tied to Konoha, if I may ask? Kabuto questioned. Without spoiling things too much, let us just say that if it got out of who they were related to within the Hidden Leaf, that it would send things into chaos, which is why I plan to save them for later in the Chunin exams when Konoha chooses to host them soon enough. If everything goes accordingly, I will bring my former teammate to his knees, and that perverted wretch will never recover from what I do to him. Orochimaru answered back as even from behind their bandages could the outline of a malefic grin be found. If that is the case, then I will be paying close attention to the results thereof. Kabuto spoke, keen to see what would come of this. What I have planned for the Chunin exams within my former home is going to be something unforgettable. My only regret is that I will not be able to broadcast what transpires to the world at large, Orochimaru said back as their excitement over what was to come was such that their chakra began to seep out in such quantities that it was semi-solid. But that being said, beyond the creation of our fangs, I do have one other very important task for you, one that cannot by all accounts fail. Otherwise, we lose out on a very rare opportunity to improve the village overall. Orochimaru further spoke to his right hand. What do you need for me to do? Kabuto questioned. I will need you to go to Hot Springs Country where you will meet with the 4 and 5 Tails Jinchuriki, both of whom I have extended an invitation to join our village under the pretense of granting them asylum, as long as they serve as the protectors of our realm, Orochimaru ordered of Kabuto. How exactly did you manage to convince not 1 but 2 Jinchuriki to come to our side? That isn't an easy task to undertake, especially with the fence sitter himself still in power. That man isn't one to let things go so easily, especially when it comes to the strength of what keeps his village in the top 5 as it were. Kabuto said back, knowing full well that the third Tsuchikage was a proud, stubborn and spiteful man. Indeed, however, a difference of opinions and change of scenery, as it were, caused a dispute between him and his Jinchuriki, so much so that they chose to become rogue shinobi rather than the alternative of going against him, Orochimaru informed the silver-haired medic. Something that I cannot fault them for given their status as living weapons of the village, that merely wanted a piece of their own. Onoki is many things. A great leader to have last this long, powerful despite his age having taken its toll, and a shrewd, cunning man. However, he is also ruthless, proud, and full of petulant spite, while I may be strict with those under my rule. It is for good reason. There is a difference between being a leader who wants the best of those around him and a despot that cannot let go of power when he has wasted beyond his years. Orochimaru further spoke regarding the fence-sitter of Atsuchikage. I see. And when will I be needed to take this venture to Bear Country? Kabuto questioned. You are to begin your travels there as soon as possible. The nature of this is great enough that I will have Guren accompany you to make sure that things go through as smoothly as possible. Orochimaru answered back. Are you sure that is a good idea? No offense to your selection of who will assist me in convincing the 4 and 5 tails to join us. However, Guren is not what I would call the most adept in social settings. Kabuto spoke knowing that her zealotry was better served on the front lines than in matters of diplomacy. Who said anything about her aiding you in matters of diplomacy? There are many things that Guren is skilled at and diplomacy is not one of them. No, she will instead serve as an added form of muscle during this venture with our potential new assets, if you will. Orochimaru replied regarding the crystal release user's place in the mission. Understood, Lord Orochimaru. One further question I have to ask. Will there be any other additional dangers that I will have to be aware of? I doubt that the third Tsuikage will let both Jinchuriki go so easily. Kabuto questioned. No, he most certainly won't. In fact, I wouldn't doubt it if he was in works with the Earth Daimyo to allow the use of his fangs to aid in hunting them down. As such, expect the worst should you convince them to join. The fangs of any of the Great Five are nothing to be taken lightly in any capacity. Kabuto, from my own personal experiences, they are a formidable lot. Orochimaru answered back. Wherein the Serpent Sannin knew that from both shinobi wars and his time going rogue until now that the fangs of any of the daimyo were nothing to take lightly, given that warriors from any of the fangs he had faced had in times past given them a challenging fight to remember or put him at death's door more times than they could count. That is why the moment you encounter them, I would suggest taking evasive action, while I know for certain that the combined strength of you, Guren, and the Jinchuriki could counter them and any possible reinforcements they bring. This does not mean that you have to fight them. As such, if you can avoid combat against them when it is not needed, then do so. Orochimaru instructed to his right hand. Fair enough. I will begin preparing the necessary countermeasures should we encounter one of them. Kabuto spoke. Good. It would be a shame if anything happened to you, because you were not prepared for the worst at hand. Orochimaru said back. With all due respect, when has there been a time that I have not prepared for a worst-case scenario? It would be beyond the height of failure if I did not do so, Kabuto said to the Serpent Sannin foe, offended by the insinuation. I do not doubt your skills, Kabuto. It is just out of concern for what may happen is all. After all, you can never be too careful with how the nature of things are these days. Orochimaru replied. Of course. And is there anything else that you would have me attend to in your stead? Kabuto questioned regarding any further duties that needed to be done. No, there is nothing further that I will need of you. Now that we are on the subject, once you complete this task for me, you are free to take the next few weeks off to do as you wish. Orochimaru responded. That is very generous of you. Thank you, Lord Orochimaru. Kabuto said back. Of course, you have done more than enough for me over the years. The very least I could do is grant you time to do as you please. The Serpent Sannin said to the silver-haired medic. Now then, prepare for your mission, Kabuto. There is much to be done and little time to waste. Orochimaru commanded as Kabuto nodded and left the Serpent Sannin's room. Now that my final vessel is completed, I will have everything that I need to achieve my deserved retribution against Jiraiya. That perverted fool will rue the day he crossed me yet, were the Sannin's thoughts as they continued to revel in the immense power inside themselves that felt limitless and vast. Sunagakure, 2 hours later, 4:48 p.m. All the while Gaara was currently training with one of her friends and her secret mentor in Shira, who had helped her in not only gaining a much better control over her own mental state, but through the practicing of taijutsu and learning to focus her sand manipulation into less destructive and more artistic means, had been able to gain a clear enough mind to be able to wrestle a few scant hours of sleep every few days to rest her head. While it wasn't a full 8 hours a day, she would take 5 to 6 hours of sleep she could gain every 4 days out of the 7 she couldn't. Thank you again for your help, Shira. I don't know what I would do without you. Gaara thanked the master of the 7 heavens breathing method. You are welcome as always, Gaara. Besides, I always saw it as a waste that no one would take the time to help you grow, Shira told his red-headed student. Besides, look at how far you have come since we have trained together. You are of far stronger mind than ever, your power of the sands has grown explosively these past few years, and you can far better fight off the call of Shikaku. More than that, you have grown exceptionally skilled in the ways of taijutsu. Far better than what I could have ever hoped for when we had initially started. Shira said with pride in his student that he had trained for over the past 3 years. It does make a difference when you have someone to believe in you. After having gone for so long without anyone in the way of supporting me, much less giving me any affection, I feel massively grateful to know that someone in the village still believed in me, even when my entire family would see fit to do so. Gaara said as she would reach into her messenger bag to gift her master something she had been working on for a month straight. That is why I wanted to present you with this. I know it may not be the most extravagant or well-made gift, but it is something that I wanted to make for you still. I hope you like it as my way of saying thank you for never giving up on me, Gaara said as she would soon pull out a foot-tall statue of amethyst quartz in the shape of a roaring 3-headed eastern dragon. This looks incredible, Gaara. Thank you, was Shira's response as he carefully took the dragon statue from her. I am glad that you like it, Shira-sensei. I had worked very hard on it for the duration of last month. It may not be my best work, but I know that there is still so much more I can do to improve upon it, Gaara said as a small smile graced her face. You give yourself far too little credit. If it wasn't for the fact that you were forced into being the village's living weapon, I would honestly say that your gifts would have you set for life making these sculptures. The fact that you can create these with such detail, while still dealing with the weight of your burden. All of it is a talent all on its own that should be appreciated. Shira replied, much to the joy of Gaara. So be kind to yourself, you are far more deserving of it than you give yourself credit. You are by far and wide an incredibly talented young woman. The fact that many in the village cannot see that is a massive shame on them. Shira further spoke. I cannot express how happy I am to hear you say that. It feels nice to have someone show me that my existence is worth something more than that of a weapon. Gaara said back, always happy to be around Shira, who was the one person she knew would positively validate her existence. If there is one thing I will never do to you, it is make you feel lesser than what you are worth. You are a great person and I will shout it from the rooftops if I have to, so you know how wonderful you truly are, Shira told Gaara with a friendly pat of her shoulder. Thank you. Hopefully, I will be able to grow strong enough to leave this place. The fact that I have with your help made it further than I could have ever hoped, and yet still so far from freedom. The freedom to choose to be myself and not constantly drown my sand in blood, to feed Shikaku's hunger. It is a bittersweet thought to know that I am closer than I have ever been to true freedom, but at the same time farther than I could ever hope to be from it. Gaara responded, her teal eyes both joyous and somber at this knowledge. Wherein the Jinchuriki of the Sand Spirit had over the years in training alongside Shira, something that had given her greater and greater mental focus, clarity, and emotional stability over herself as a person. Had her realize with her strengthened grip on her own sanity, that her ability to one day have a freedom of her own was something that was nearly impossible. After all, as the village's only ace in the hole and behind her father one of the strongest that the village had to offer, Gaara was often forced to come to grips with the sobering fact that her freedom to one day escape the binds of being forced into a blood-soaked weapon of the village. For a father that scorned her existence, a village that was horrified of her as a waking nightmare, and elder siblings that were all but repulsed by the very nature of what she was. That her chance to one day have the freedom to simply be somewhere, wherein she could craft and create all of the sand and quartz sculptures she wished and live in a peace that she could choose to as she pleased, was a future that, while possible, seemed slim and almost out of reach by that same token. Nothing is truly impossible, Gaara. It is simply difficult to achieve, nothing more. Your freedom to choose how you want to live your life is no exception. We just have to continue striving towards that goal to achieve it. Shira said with full confidence that such a thing could one day be achieved. Do you really think that it is possible for that to happen, Shira-sensei? Gaara questioned. I am not only sure of it, I know that it can and will be done one day. All we need to do is continue to grow stronger and strive to improve in any way that we can. As long as we are to do those two things, then a future where you can choose what you wish to be is all but certain. That much I can promise to you. Shira answered back in a promise that held nothing but almost boundless optimism in his words. If you truly believe that, then I will continue to follow alongside you, Shira-sensei. Gaara said, her small smile never wavering for even a moment. Excellent, now come on, we have more training to do. Greatness waits for no one. So let us begin again, my glorious student, Shira said as he and Gaara got into their respective fighting stances. I do not know how we will achieve it, but someday, one day, my life will be mine to do as I wish, Gaara said as she began her training session once more alongside her sensei. With Naruto and Sasuke taking opportunities to further their paths to power and grow into legends in their own right, we see that Orochimaru, now in their newest and now final vessel, prepares to take things within Otogekyure to a wholly new level. What this will entail as the Serpent Sannin plans to make their moves to eliminate their enemies. This and more is something you will have to stay tuned to see in the LL new chapters of You'll Never Keep Me Down, a rippling alternative.